Unclicked podcast. We are here. It has been like 2 months since we filmed a podcast, so I apologize to everybody, but life, times, things happen. So, but we have the one and only Jamie Bestwick.
Yep.
X Games silver medalist.
Yes. Yep, been there, done that. Wasn't that a great day?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
What, like 9-time, 10-time gold? What is it?
13.
13.
Yeah. 13.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit of a journey from the bronze medal in Providence, Rhode Island.
But also Baja Champion.
Oof.
TV announcer,
No.
enduro racer, gravel bicycle riding,
gravel
long
bicycle.
distance champion,
Lose
Olympic
the champion.
Olympic coach, coffee company, coffee shop owner, Rock Coffee.
Which I had some when I went to Woodward East. I went to Woodward East for the first time a few months ago, and really good coffee.
Thank you. Yeah, the guys do an awesome job.
Yeah.
And what else? Father, husband,
Yep.
Northern Englishman.
Midlands. Middle of England, Derbyshire originally.
Okay.
What else we got going on?
Podcaster.
I've been on a couple podcasts lately. So,
Okay.
Oh, nice.
What other podcasts?
Payson McCleven's The Adventure Stash. He's a, incredibly talented mountain bike racer, gravel bike racer, and he does this podcast called The Adventure Stash.
Okay.
Adventure Stash, because of his big mustache.
Okay.
And I went on, and it was just talking about,
Was it-
riding long distance gravel events and stuff like that.
What's that like?
Riding a long distance gravel event?
Yeah. I honestly, like,
It's a pretty interesting thing.
I get it, but I don't get it at the same time.
Well, right. The thing with the long distance stuff is it's kind of one of those bucket lists. You know how people are like, I'm a dentist and I need to go climb Kathmandu,
Got you.
or I've got to go climb Everest. It's the bucket list thing. And with endurance cycling, it's just it's a journey. It literally is a journey from the start line to the finish. What you encounter throughout the miles is, kind of discovery of, your own body and mind. You're always discovering new terrain along the way, and, you're also just enjoying the miles for as much as your body and your mind will allow you to. And that's what I've found with it all. It's a day out. It's a trip. It is. I've learned so much about myself since doing these things than that I care to remember in BMX. Like BMX, I'm just all about the moment. I'm having fun, and I'm learning things along the way. But BMX is so fast-paced, and it can either be violent or it can be the most smooth form of riding a bike you've ever done. But gravel racing all day long gives you time to reflect. And there'll be moments throughout the day where you're having to really look inside yourself in order to make it to the next aid station or another mile or to the finish.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense in so many different ways, because I feel like X Games vert competition is 45 seconds. The entire contest in total is approximately like
an hour.
Yeah. And where that stuff is all day, and where your mind must go in those moments has to be insane, because you probably don't think about anything when you drop in for your X Games run. I would assume it mostly goes a little blank, where you're like not thinking about what happened afterwards. Is that?
Yeah, riding vert contests for me, it used to be about, wanting to go in there and almost like you want to show off. In the beginnings of BMX, every kid gets a BMX bike because they want to show off to their friends, and they want to, show off their new tricks. I got a new T-shirt, I got a new hat, I got a new helmet, I got new this, that, I got new tires for my bike. So you're always showing off. And initially, BMX competitions they're a form of showing off. You just want to go out, have fun with your friends, and see what you could do. And as you continue through, a competitive life, you're just constantly looking for the next phase of how to make an impression. And with BMX being all about creativity, it's what have you got to show? All those hours that you spend, in your head and looking at other people's riding and trying to create something of your own and leave your own legacy on the sport. It's all in preparation for the moment that you get to show it all off, And when I ride in for Vert, there's been many years where nerves and looking too far ahead and not meeting those goals and maybe being a bit disappointed, a bit too nervous, achieving success, achieving failure, and learning across the way, ultimately changed when, you start to remember why you actually got into this in the first place. And you actually take the time to really understand yourself and to understand not only what you're trying to achieve in your own BMX life, but also what you're trying to achieve at that moment. And a 30 to 40 second or even a minute vert run, you find yourself going from a nervous ball of energy riding in to a very focused and almost thankful for this opportunity to ride in and show everybody what you can do for their allotted time. And that's, what I've experienced throughout the years is just a shift in, show me what you got. Hey, you can do a wheelie over 10 car park spaces. I got 11. I got 11. Check me out. And I got new tires and I got a new hat. And, so it's, I think that, to me, if I was to really just put a word around BMX, it's all about showing off.
Yeah.
It is.
While riding Vert in the contests and stuff, at any time did you ever feel intimidated before dropping in, not just by the nerves, but by the competitors?
You ride against Dave Mirra and Jay Miron and Matt Hoffman, you're shit yourself.
Very true. I mean, yeah.
Those guys were just a different level.
A presence, I'm sure.
Oh, larger than life.
Yeah.
The aura that Dave Mirra used to carry with him was as if a Roman emperor just walked in with his bags and his full face helmet, and here we are, Dave Mirra, and there's Matt Hoffman, the mythical legend of BMX, carved from the stone of the gods and built to last, bones that never break. And, the tricks that he used to bring to the table, you were just excited to see him ride more than you were excited to ride in yourself at times. And then, Jay Miron, now he lives the life of a humble craftsman, making furniture in Thunder Bay, Canada. But before, he was an absolute lunatic and a shit to deal with and just an absolute wild man on the ramp. And he was a different kind of energy. He was a mixed bag.
Yeah. Probably just never know what you're going to get.
Oh, right? No, you never knew which Jay was going to turn up on the day. But you were thankful for any Jay that turned up on the day because you knew it was always going to be fireworks.
So how do you explain how somebody like you, where you're competitive and you've transferred that into other aspects of your life via the gravel racing and Baja and stuff like that, and even partially being an Olympic coach, that is a transfer of that competitiveness, where Jay is messing with a chisel on a chair for 2 months straight, and do you think that's him being competitive with himself? Like, how does I call something like champion syndrome, where like these people the friends of mine and peers and stuff like that, they're so good at something and it gives them all this reward, and then after, when it fades or it becomes less interesting, they look for that next thing. And how do you explain what Jay found and how Jay went out in the sense of like, I'm done?
Everybody has a tipping point, you know, and Jay was just taking BMX and his BMX company to different levels. You know, that one of the last edits that I saw from McNeil, the Jay Miron one, just out of control. You know, his street riding has always been amazing. His park riding, his vert riding. The guy can ride absolutely anything, and he was fearless. And he took some big crashes, and he didn't mind getting up from them and you know, powering straight through. And I think that is a lasting impression that he's always had on BMX, is that, you know, his drive and his passion to get up and compete against all the odds and kind of prove people wrong and you know, go for the biggest, the gnarliest tricks out there. You know, that his career on a BMX will always stand the test of time. Nobody can dispute what he did on a BMX. And I don't think, and I might be completely wrong, and I think Jay is the best person to answer this, but from an outside point of view, did he take the competitive element into something else, or did he take the creative element of what he was so good at doing into something that he felt that he could make a lasting impression on as well? And he has a very good eye. And much like in his BMX riding, you know, some of the technical lip tricks that Jay used to do, you had to be creative. You had to be fearless, bold, you know, have a lot of courage. And when you're working with expensive wood and long hours and discipline, all that time on a BMX that he put into riding and the discipline and the courage that he had, you can see that in the works of art that he produces for people throughout his with his woodworking skills. And kudos to Jay, you know, he went the right way. He trained himself, and the interviews that I've read online of the things he's done in preparation to become the person he is now within the woodworking world, it's much like his BMX. You know, he just didn't start hacking away at wood. He went and put himself with the very best teachers that he could, and to be inspired by them. And now he's, you know, inspiring others. And the things he is creating are as visually as spectacular as the riding that he did on his BMX bike.
Well said. And I felt like from your perspective that you could, you know, shine some light on that. You
definitely
know,
did a great job on that. Yeah.
Who was your greatest competitor on the deck that you?
I mean, it's Dave.
Dave.
Yeah, Dave Mirra was anybody's greatest competitor. He was the one that, I wouldn't say he was the career ender, but he definitely was the one that if you had aspirations to become a dominant athlete in the genre of BMX park or BMX vert, Dave was the guy to say no. He was the gatekeeper. You want to win this contest? Come through me.
Gotta go through Dave.
You know, I hold all the keys. So Dave was the biggest competitor, because you weren't just riding to see who was the best at BMX. Essentially, you were, but there was more to it than that. Dave was a fierce outside of BMX trainer. His fitness level was off the charts.
And he was one of the first to really bring that to the competitive level, right?
He was. And it inspired so many people to do the same. But when you're going against the Michael Jordan of BMX, you got to put some long hours in. You got to be prepared to eat the right foods. You got to be prepared to cut the partying out, drink the water, lift the weights, run the miles. Then, on top of all that, ride your bike. When you're absolutely burnt out and you've got nothing left in the tank, you got to get on your bike. You got to be pushing the envelope. You got to be creative. And guess what? You can't do any of his tricks because you can't do them anywhere near as good as Dave Mirra. You got to come up with your own. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where he always had people, was, you know, they'd try and emulate the stuff that he was doing, but can you do a no-handed 5 as good as Dave Mirra? Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Literally a no-handed 5 on Mirra, you could have a still silhouette and you would know it was Mirra.
Of course.
Yeah. It was his style.
Yeah, you know, it's the reason why I inspired, like, to even compete in X Games. Like, I always wanted to as a kid, and I remember writing it down. And, like, as I got older, then when that time did come, it was like, wow. Like, thinking about it, because I remember watching the X Games when you rode the gold bike, you know, everything. So it's like hearing that and say, that's so true. It really is. So,
yeah. To compete against Dave Mirra, like I said, you...
Cat incoming.
Oh. Wow. Tune in next week, folks, and we'll have a dog on the table. Yeah, when you rode against Dave, you were just riding against so many different elements. I mean, to go to any contest, and the Dave Mirra effect was in full effect. Yeah. You know, if you thought you were doing well that day and the crowd cheered for you, wait till they call Mirra's name out.
Yeah.
It was like Patriots win the Super Bowl, or, you know, the Chargers win the Super Bowl. The place went through the roof.
They're not in San Diego anymore.
Oh, they're not?
No.
I mean, that really shows how much I know about American football.
That's pretty much all I know about football as well.
Yeah,
so.
But, you know, you kind of get where I'm going with it. The X Games, the roof would blow off because the level of noise that would come out for Dave was incredible. He would show up and he'd always have the best gear on. He'd have a brand new bike. His helmet was just a glitter ball of the most beautiful array of sponsors, and Slim Jim, Club Med, and, you know, everything to do with him. You just felt that you were never on a level playing field.
Yeah, you thought you were killing it, and then
you show up.
Yeah,
and,
shit. You look at your kit and maybe I should have.
You know, he's probably the only one on the vert ramp that was wearing cologne. You know? You're like, oh my gosh, I've got Axe on today. Dave rocks up with like Gucci, like just a potpourri of beautiful man cologne. But he was tough, and even when you beat him and you thought, I got him, see you at the next one, he would come. It was mind-blowing how he would come back stronger in a short space of time. I can remember winning the X Games in 2000, and that was a tough loss for Dave. But I had to go above and beyond the call of my own riding in order to beat him. I had to bring something brand new to the table. The contest finished for that year, or maybe I went to some contests and rounded out the year, and Dave just went into hiding, which meant he built a resi and built a bigger vert ramp and went to work. And we all showed up in Jacksonville, Florida at the Kona skate park for the CFB that year. And I came into there red hot. I'm like, right, Dave, the changing of the guard has happened. Get ready. I've got mad lip tricks. I've got all these new air variations. I'm flaring better. I've just got better flow. Everything about it. I am now the complete package. I'm the Dave Mirra killer. All right, so when I was in, I think I got third at that contest, I was thinking, well, that plan didn't work. And I proceeded to sit in the corner, and I all but stuck my thumb in my mouth, and I was like this, like, Christ, I'm getting absolutely murdered here. I was like, what is he doing? And he went away and worked harder than I did.
He just went in the cave.
He went in the pain cave, and what he came out with, I was like, where's he got these tricks from? All brand new. Nobody's ever seen anything like it before. His flares had gone from these ropey, loop the back wheel out, do the old mirror head thing, land exactly in the same spot on the back wheel where you took off from, grab a fistful of brake, hopefully it doesn't loop out, and then pop it down and then do a signature Dave Mirra tail whip or a no-hander or a bar spin. Now Dave Mirra's flares were like 8-9 feet, and they were just carving things of beauty. And his tail whips have got better, and his tail whip variations were now insane. No foot can tail whips, and whip to bars, all that stuff.
Was Dave the first to kind of really start carving them like that, or was that? I don't really know where it came from.
No,
because like the modern day, you know, the original flare is that the jackknife, essentially what you're
straight up and down,
straight up,
flip,
and down,
drop, flip, turn,
literally flip air basically, and then you know the modern day one is this carving, you know, kind of off axis.
I think that is something that we were doing up at Woodward.
Okay,
we'd started carving flares because the ramps were obviously bigger, and obviously when you're going onto the resi all the time, you do tend to carve. So it kind of moved across onto the vert ramp. I know Kevin, he was doing carving flares too, and then obviously Chad and everybody else followed suit. But then when Dave came with his flare, it was just different. Mm-hmm. It was way different to ours, and it was more. It was a better way of doing a higher flare, because the way he did them, you could do them 8-9 feet out, no problem. The way I always did them, I always, you know, like the flip air, took off on the bike wheel, caught with the bike wheel. I always felt it straightened me out too much, but Dave's all of a sudden, he's doing these like tucked in, you know, like big flares like this, and I never really saw him do many things other than maybe a turn down and a flare whip. But he didn't need to, because he was doing like 14-foot airs into flares over channels. Yeah. Wow. And all of a sudden we're like, okay, now this is a problem.
He was always in like a really tight ball too.
He was. And it just looked great. Yeah. You know, you look at any photos from early 2000 contests. So, you know, Anaheim, the ESPN competition, first one of the year, I think it was B3 or X Trials, whichever it was. There were pictures of him for AT&T and stuff like that, and big flares just coming in, different style, just looked awesome. I think Mavro posted some footage from that contest up on his YouTube, and the way he was doing flares over the channel, I mean, it was like he was flipping a 40-foot set doubles at the trails. It was just so smooth.
So when put together the timeline for me, because when you first started coming and you rode your first X Games and your first contest, like major contest against Mirra, I think you said you had, you know, high hopes, and then it took like 3 years or something for you to beat Mirra.
Came in 96 or came in 95. First American contest I went to was
smiling already.
This was a random one, all right. So flew into Austin, drove 17 hours in a Pontiac Trans Am, and if you come from England and somebody shoves 5 people in a Pontiac Trans Am, that's as good as it gets. That's like winning the lottery for an Englishman. Like every American program you've ever seen in your entire life in England, if you're put in a Pontiac Trans Am and you're road tripping to Florida with John Yule, Spooky Dave, Greg Tate, all these Austin locals, like that's as good as it gets. Get to the last bicycle stunts contest before it went to ESPN, and ride out there. Obviously, it was the standard crew with We Are 138 every 5 minutes when anybody took a run at that competition. But yeah, that was my first experience of coming out here. And obviously, you know, that contest was notorious with a lot of, you know, a lot of crazy riding, a lot of post BMX craziness. First time I got to get in a car with Ron Wilkerson, and he was doing 180 burnouts in the middle of a kind of 2-lane Florida street, which completely freaked me out. But I was like, just go with it; it'll be fine.
Don't be uncool.
Don't be. It's Ron Wilkerson. He's a legend. Everything's good. And getting to ride my first US contest, that was awesome too. And you know, go to go to 96 and Providence, Rhode Island. That was the first X Games. And it was just amazing. You know, coming out the train station in Providence, Rhode Island, walking around the corner and seeing the dirt jumps. And one of the first people you saw hit the dirt jumps was Robbie Morales and Brian Foster. It was, I mean, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
That's as good as it gets. And then riding the vert ramp and just being a kid from England who people knew of me and people had, you know, kind of experienced riding against me. And to suddenly be at the X Games, be in the lead, I think I have to run one, which is mental. It was just an incredible experience. And getting the bronze medal there was... I wouldn't say it was like, I've arrived. It was more like, there's a possibility that your dream of riding a bike full-time could actually happen. Because I was working a regular job. Yeah. I was working 40 hours a week.
And you were a mechanic of some sort?
No, I used to work in the aerospace industry. So I worked for a company that refurbished engine blades. Okay. So we'd evaluate them, repair them, send them back to the customer. I was the last person to check them in order for them to be airworthy and put in the plane. So I had a responsible job. However, my
career, I would assume.
Yeah, I didn't look at it like a career. It was just a job. It's just a means to an end. I wanted to be a BMX rider. Yeah. And I rode BMX 5 times a week in order to get to the skate park, which was an hour and 20 minutes from where I worked. I needed gas money. So work a job, pays for the car, pays for the gas, pays for my bills. Happy days.
A means to the bike.
A means to the bike. So when I left Providence, Rhode Island with a bronze medal, I just saw that this is a real opportunity to be able to fulfill my dream of riding BMX full time. Yeah. And then from there, I went to a few X Games. I got picked up by GT. And obviously the first few years with GT didn't kind of go so well. There was the famous Woody Itzen flipping the judges off incident at the X Games in 1998, where he got ejected from the X Games. That was an interesting day out at the races. When your team manager,
I don't know that story.
Oh man, when you put a run together. And hey, you know what? Everybody's biased. I'm sure all team managers are biased. Yeah. You know, they're all like, my guy rode the best. What are you guys looking at? Well, that moment happened. And we're at the X Games, and I'm just sat there, and I'm thinking already, like, well, you know, not many people really think I'm like, you know, the shit anyway. So, you know, just English guy, terrible sense of humor, comes over here, starts riding. And then he's got a team manager who is an absolute legend within BMX, but he's very vocal and chose to be very vocal that day. And when the score for my run, and I did a good run. I did a good run, to be fair. When that score didn't come in and it didn't satisfy Woody, he turned around and just went mental at the judges, you know, F-bombing, flipping people off. And, of course, Matt and all the guys just got quite angry. Oh, yeah. And they had him ejected from the X Games. And I felt bad because I felt bad for Woody because, you know, everybody has a right to an opinion. It's just there's a time and a place to do it, and there's no need to be that animated. But, you know, essentially, I appreciate him fighting for me, you know, and saying, hey, this kid rode better than the score that you gave him. And I think in this day and age, that's acceptable to do. Yeah. You know, well,
probably without the middle finger.
Without the middle finger and the gestures. Yeah. But I felt like the next couple of years were quite rough because I felt like I was still being penalized for things that had happened. Right. Go to 99 and turned up in San Francisco, riding absolutely amazing. Me and the bike in one. Felt like I could give Dave and Matt and Jay a real run for their money. 35 seconds into run one, looped out on a frame stand ice pick grind and got a semi-concussion. And I was like, this is absolutely perfect. Perfect. However, that night was basically the determining factor for me actually getting to grips with what I really wanted out of BMX. That crash put me in a state of mind where I took all my pads, all my gear off, everything. I knew there was a 6 or 7 mile bike ride back to the hotel. I gave the bike to the TM, which I think was Woody at the time. I said, I'm going to ride back to the hotel. And he said, why? It's like 7, 8 miles. It's going to take you an hour or so. I was like, I don't care. I just need to go. So off I went. I rode the miles. And it just gave me time to stop and reflect on how much I was actually blowing this opportunity. Like, for all my life, I'd wanted to be a BMX pro. It's all I ever dreamed about. Ever since I watched BMX Bandits. Ever since American magazines started arriving in the newsagents of the UK, you know, those images, those crystal clear blue skies, those amazing tricks, those uniforms, those bikes, it was all I ever dreamed of. And it was all I, you know, could think about was just to become a BMX pro. And I was blowing it big time. I was wasting everybody's time, my own included.
You just don't think you were taking it serious enough or working hard enough, or?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything came into question, you know, because I had sat on a field and wrote a list of pros and cons down to why I should quit my job and move to America and become a BMX pro. And I was just throwing everything down the drain. Everything I'd worked hard for years for back in England, everything that I dreamt about at the desk, I was throwing it away. So I went from there and I went to Woodward Camp. That's how I ended up at Woodward Camp. And I went to Woodward Camp and I rode there for 3 weeks. I rode there for 2 weeks, and the next contest after was a B3 in Oceanside, California.
So was there a mental shift between San Fran, Woodward, and Oceanside? Like what changed you mentally from that point?
I don't want this to keep happening.
Yeah.
It can't. You know, I'd sacrificed so much, and I felt that in England, I grew up at one of the best times in BMX. And the people I rode with in England, the UK BFA, which was the governing body in England, the people that helped me get to contests, the people that were my team managers, so Roy and Diane Winfield, Jeff and Jenny Catlow, Roger Atkins, all these people that helped with the infrastructure of the UK BMX freestyle scene. And then there was all the riders that I grew up riding with, not only my friends that came and went from BMX, but there was also the best riders in England at the time who inspired me to be better. There was the riders that I rode with week in, week out, and there was riders that I would see month in, month out at different events. There were the contest promoters like Stu Dawkins and Ian Morris, and they'd put on the backyard jams. And there was the guys that, you know, were pushing me at those contests to really, you know, strengthen my riding and get more creative and to be a better rider. And I felt like I'd been given the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants, the English giants of BMX, and I was doing a disservice to it. I was letting all those people down because they looked as, you know, whether they, you know, knew this or not, but they looked at me as the person that can take the UK BMX freestyle scene, or maybe that was my perception of their view, but to take the UK BMX freestyle scene and go conquer America. Go be that guy. And there were other guys, you know, that came across America too, but I always felt that I was doing a disservice to my community within the UK BMX and its rich history, and everybody who'd ever progressed and learned a new trick and passed it on, or a new bike part or anything like that, or done anything for BMX in the UK. I felt like I was letting them down. And that night when I rode home, I had to make some hard decisions, and I knew I had to knuckle down, and I knew in order to get to where I wanted to go, I couldn't let any of those people down, because not only had they sacrificed things in their own life for the enjoyment of their time in BMX, but they'd also sacrificed things so I could be a better rider.
Yeah.
And I couldn't let that slide. So
how old were you at this time? That particular time, whenever you were riding back from the contest? Like
28. 28. So I've been around.
Yeah.
So I've been around for a while. I mean, I picked up a bike when I was 10 years old. So, you know, I've been around for a while. But it takes something as harsh as the lesson that I learned that night, crashing when I thought I had a chance, to actually make you fully understand how much you weren't sacrificing and how much that reflected on the people that sacrificed before you. And I couldn't live with that.
That's a life lesson for people, because you get to a place and then sometimes you forget about all the people that helped you get there. And and the weight isn't there, and it's like, yeah, you're kind of taking it for granted, you know? And not you specifically, but like people in general.
You come across that moment.
There's a lot of sacrifices that your parents made, that friends made, that peers made, and that mentors made to get you to a point. And it's like, hey,
and it's cool to hear too that you were able to, you know, find that within yourself after the crash. Because like you know, with anything in life, you have to take it down or slam with, whether that's whatever job you do or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. You have to take a big loss to hopefully on that first time to realize, like, all right, I need to put way more effort. I need to stop holding back, or to make these certain adjustments. And sometimes it can seem pretty hard, or you may not figure that out till, you know, you're way older. But hearing it at, you know, you're 28, like think about like if when I was 28 and thinking about when I was 18, things I would have done differently. Yeah. But it seemed that it was supposed to work that way, and you had that moment with yourself and you were able to gather yourself and like take on that by yourself to really self-evaluate, self-audit yourself, to put yourself in the right state of mind, like look at all the things around you to try to make a proper impact and add more value to what you're doing. So like hearing that, it's like, all right, that's pretty sick, man.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about, you know, these days people don't see the value of the efforts that people have made before them. Mm. You know, they feel like, I hear it all the time, self-made. Yeah. Bullshit, you're self-made. Nobody's self-made. No. What, you pop out the oven on your own, did you?
Selfish made.
Yeah, selfish made. You know, and that's really interesting, and the majority of the time when you're when you're asking for help and you're looking for that helping hand, we're always a we. Mm-hmm. We're strength in numbers. Mm-hmm. When you achieve the success, the we becomes an I. Mm. And that success has ultimately just defined you, who you are. Mm-hmm. And the hidden agenda was there all along. It was all singular. I did it on my own. Oh my God. Yeah. I just put 6 months worth of work with a bunch of guys, and they taught me everything, and we did this, and guess what? I did it. I did it. I conquered all my fears. I conquered this trick. I conquered that trick. And dude, brake check. Hello. Yeah. what? We were a we. And then you became an I?
Yeah.
It's like, is that just something that naive people do, or is it just immature age?
I think it is an age thing, because
or
I think
it could be too that some people will probably feel like whenever they say lonely at the top, it's like whenever you get to a certain point, you kind of feel like other people don't understand you, when it's like, no, they're just you in your own head.
That is a topic for you as well, of course. I don't want to stray too far from the original thing, but eventually you do get to the top. You get to beat Mirra in 2000. Was that kind of the end? No, is it
end of 99?
Oh, end of 99. Okay.
Yeah. So after I went to Woodward for a couple of weeks, and I have to tell this story because this one's an absolute classic. Mm-hmm. Makes me laugh every time. If I get the opportunity, I tell people all the time. I went to Woodward for a few weeks. Came from Woodward to Oceanside, and it's the one where the guy Jay jumped the stairs.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah.
Yes. And
he did.
Jason
somebody.
Culver.
Yeah, Jason Culver.
That's
yeah.
the fucking encyclopedia of information.
No pads,
Jason
no
Culver.
nothing.
Yeah, he would jump over. He was San Diego local. He would jump over fences at every single park that existed back there. Mm-hmm. Jason jumped over it, and he was that dude. And yeah, that is a legendary sequence.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and he's still around.
Is.
If you look him up on Instagram, he's still out there.
Congrats for making it that far, Jason.
Fuck.
Yeah, inspiring. But I went to that contest and rode the final against Dave Mirra, and that stair set's still there for anybody that wants to. I'm not going to bother.
I actually went there with Trey. Had to be like 7 years ago. He was thinking about no-handering into it. And I was like, we walked away from it.
That thing is gnarly. Yeah,
it's a big ass stair set.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I qualified in first at this contest. And I was riding amazing. Probably the best I've ever ridden in a long time. Super dialed after being at Woodward. And in the second run, Dave snapped his crank arm at the 30-second mark. This was when you had a 1 minute runs.
Yeah.
And he proceeded to do, the usual Dave Mirra shit. He rode on one crank arm and he milled around the coping. I think he might have done something. I don't know. He had his foot tucked in there, kind of like how the new school kids jam their foot on their crank arm. But he really didn't complete the run.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. The door is wide open. Go. Went in, put a killer run together, and they're calling all the names out. Third place, I can't remember who it was. And then second place, Jamie Bestwick. And I looked, and everybody looked at me, and they were like, what? And I just started laughing. And I just went, thanks, guys. Walked up, got the second place trophy, and I was like, perfect.
Really?
Absolutely perfect. And this was when both runs counted.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Dave goes up there. I don't know, you got me, Bestwick, and all this stuff. And they said, hey, give me that second place trophy. And I said, well, you give me the first place check too, then.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't do that.
That's a good fucking story.
I was like, well, okay, then. I was like, I'll see you at the next one, I guess. So I went home and just put another 3 weeks worth of work in before we went to the inaugural Gravity Games in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And of course, in qualifying, Dave, his bike breaks in his second run. Thankfully, his brother Tim, his bike was on top of the ramp as a backup. So Dave's bike breaks. 2 runs counted, okay? Dave's bike breaks in his second qualifying run. He ditches the bike, grabs his brother's, goes in there, and I'm pretty sure his run lasted a minute and a half because it's Dave Mirra, and everybody loves Dave Mirra. He's club med and sparkly helmet. He's got such nice teeth. He's a beautiful dude. Anyway, he's got milk. And And so he does this run on his brother's bike, and that sack of shit rolls in first place. And I'm like, what have I got to do to cop a break here? I'm like, come on. The guy could, like, the wheels could fall off his bike, and he could, still fanny around in the flat bottom and still win. So anyway, I came back the next night, and as I was walking to the vert ramp, I can't remember who it was, but there was a judge at the time, and he doesn't judge anymore. And as I was walking to the vert ramp, he was like, "Good luck tonight, Jamie." And I said, "Yeah, thank you, appreciate that." And he goes, "Don't do any lip tricks." I looked at him, I'm like, this guy. Mm-hmm. Don't do any lip tricks. Lip tricks are mandatory in a 1 minute vert run. I'm like, who's got that kind of endurance? And I sat there and I thought about it, and I was watching practice, and I was like, don't do any lip tricks. I was like, what's going to happen if I don't do any lip tricks? So I went out there and put 2 minutes worth of airs together, and I nearly blew a lung.
Yeah.
I nearly blew a valve, and I was just doing stuff that was way out of my depth. I mean, I did tail whips opposite to the way I aired, and for some reason, I went full gas into an opposite air tail whip, and I looked down and I could see the top of the cameraman's head, and I'm like, I am way too high. I am way too freaking high. I'm like, shit. But I hung on, and I did 2 1 minute runs without lip tricks. I think I might have done like an ice pick at the end or something.
Skip the frame stand ice, though.
Nothing at all. No, it was all in the air.
That was a reference to the concussion.
Yeah, no, that was a bad day. Yeah. But life-changing day too.
Yeah.
And then I can remember getting down off the ramp, and I can remember seeing Dave up on top of the ramp, and he was like, shit. and it's the first time I'd ever noticed him panic.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I did good.
Oh my God. Dave Mirra's like, he's stumped. And you always knew when Dave Mirra was kind of in a bind, because DMC would be right there. He'd always, Dennis would be right there. I don't know, Dave, back in 88 at the AFA Masters, I came across the same situation, and I needed 1 point to beat R.L. Osborne for the win, and blah, blah, blah. He was there chirping in Dave's ear, and I was like, oh, Christ, this is bad. Yeah. Like, this is bad for Dave. He doesn't, for the first time, I think he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And he went out there and royally blew it. And I was like, this is awesome. I did it. And I happened to do it at like the contest with the biggest prize money.
Yeah. What was the prize money back then?
50 grand.
God damn. You had matching too?
I might have done.
That's what's up. So that was a good year. So,
it was great, because after that contest, I went straight back to the hotel, called England. I said, put the house on the market, we're moving to America.
That's fucking sick.
And that was basically it. And then from there on, like you say, I went to X Games in 2000, and everything changed. Although, also nothing changed. You could never take for granted that even if you beat Dave once, you were going to beat him again.
Yeah.
And it took years for me to understand how to consecutively stay on top. Because you win one, Dave comes back stronger. You beat him again, he comes back stronger. And it was always this up, down, up, down, up, down, until, again, you make another shift within your riding to fully, for me, it was to fully understand that in order to really separate myself from everybody else, I have to be so different that I'm the one dictating to everyone how you ride vert from here on out. And that was how you change the game.
Yeah.
You become the person that dictates, hey, if you show up to a contest now, you have to ride this way in order to be on par with the top guys. And if you don't have it, don't expect to be on the podium. And, from there on out, it was, I think from 2006, I got I got silver in 2006, and then it was 2007 all the way to 14. It was just a run of insane wins. But with the up and downness of the previous years against battling with Dave, you know, when you become the consecutive gold medal winner over and over and over again, it comes with its own different set of problems. So, you know, it's like you were winning round after round after round after round after round instead of winning a round, losing a round, winning a round, losing a round. So you'd be like, you'd be on top of the world, then you'd be down, and you have to get hungry again, and then you're back on top of the world, and then you're down, you have to be hungry again. So it's like constantly chase, catch, chase, catch.
Emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, for sure. And when it became consecutive wins, the problem then wasn't chasing, it was defend.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't take that attitude. I always looked at it like, when I went into every contest, whether I won the one previous or not, I was always the guy chasing.
Yeah.
I was always the guy in second place. I was never the favorite. I would never believe anything that the people on the PA system were telling me. Here he comes 3 times, you know, back-to-back winner, blah, blah, blah. And I'd listen to it, and I would never, you know, I would always appreciate what they said. But I was always thinking to myself, I've got to work hard today. I've got to beat these guys. Like, I'm chasing these guys. I'm in second place right now.
So, is it...
And by the way...
Yeah.
All this stuff can be construed as you're a competitive asshole in the world of competition.
Yeah.
Okay, where we had to take it to. You know, people can often say like, "Oh, he was just super competitive. It was a competitive asshole," and blah blah blah. But you know, what they failed to see is I was learning off Dave Mirra.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy who, when he lost, you had to duck because there was a Bell Moto 7 helmet coming flying off the course because he was angry that he lost. So when you're riding with someone who has such high expectations of riding and such desire to stay on top, things get competitive.
They do.
It's kind of like another form of pulling things out of yourself that you don't feel exist until you are faced with them. You know, it's like,
yeah.
It kind of also creates another lane that people can like say, well, if you want to be a BMX pro, well, you have many options. And if you think highly of yourself and you could dig deep enough to compete with these guys, because you know you have to come with it. And I think with some people can just seem naturally talented on the bike, but when you have to compete against guys that seem competitive or just driven, then it's good to have guys like yourself and guys like Dave that set that bar. So it makes kids want to go harder, or people looking at you guys to even try that much harder to even be on the deck, you know. So many people will probably look at it differently, but also people need to hear that so they can like find their way within it. Because if you don't have those examples, then it kind of leaves you just like, oh, I can just lollygag around, which you can do it however you want, but here's another way you can do it.
It's also one of those things that people comment on stuff that they can't relate to.
Yeah.
You can't relate.
Sure.
You can't relate to actually being the best in the world at something. Right. Like, you know, I don't know, I take it or not, but like you were, you know, the best in the world at something, at riding BMX vert, and it's like, I can't relate to that. I can't relate. I'm not the best in the world at anything. There's whatever it is, whatever you put out there that I'm good at, somebody's probably better than it. Not fucking BMX vert. You know, like, and that's a wild place to be. Mm-hmm. And so when somebody's like, "Oh, he's a competitive asshole," or says anything, it's like,
it's because they can't relate.
Yeah,
you can't relate.
That's
like,
true.
Like it's,
and it takes a lot of like people to dig deep to even admit that. You know, it's like when you do something you love or that you think you love as much as somebody else, then somebody else can do it 100 times better than make you like look at yourself like, do I really? Am I really?
There's always a faster car.
Like,
there's always a faster runner. There's always a faster whatever. Like, you're not the best.
Yeah,
like, you think you may be best in like 5 miles, 5 square miles.
Yeah,
not 100. You know, like not 1,000. So, what's it like being the best in the world at something? Explain that.
Thank you. Appreciate you putting me on the spot. I think one thing that you have to be mindful of is that, and I'll refer it back to what I said earlier. I was given the enormous task of standing on the shoulders of English giants, the English BMX community. And I'd finally got to a position where I was proud to do that. And I was willing to work 10 times harder than anybody else to stay there, because if I were there, if I was at the top, if I was the best guy in the world, then so was the English BMX community.
That's where you came from.
They were there with me, every one of them. Every 2-hour session in the cold of winter with a bunch of my friends and riding mini ramp and, riding a vert ramp alone at Wakefield, and while everybody was riding the street course, everybody was there with me. Like every sacrifice, every English BMX rider, every parent of every BMX rider that helped out at the events that we had, and they were low budget. When you're towing a ramp on the back of a car, there were no frills, but they were all there too. It wasn't for nothing.
Yeah.
It wasn't for nothing. And that's, that was something that I took pride in, and I was willing to work. And if there was an attachment to that from people that didn't understand or couldn't relate, so be it. But, there was a bigger prize at stake than, what many people could see. And that was to make everyone that enjoyed riding BMX, past, present, and even the future, know that coming from England, anything's possible. Coming from anywhere in the world, anything's possible. But, to be there, to put that work in, it meant that I valued everything that came before me.
You never forgot the we, like you said. It's like
you can't forget the we, because I'm not self-made. So many people have helped me to get here. So many people. And if I was just to suddenly forget who they were, wow, what a guy Jamie Bestwick is.
That would make you an asshole.
That would make me an asshole.
Yeah.
And I don't forget those people. What is it? I've been on Monster since 2006. We were talking about it the other night. I think I'm one of the longest standing Monster members. And I'm so grateful to those guys, because they've supported me riding a BMX bike, and they've, much like my peers back in the day and the parents that would give me a ride to Europe to ride a contest, they've helped me. They've nurtured me. They've inspired me. They've given me that gentle push in the back to say, we're here, strength in numbers, we got you. And, I'm thankful for that. And I never feel alone. And I tell that to as many people as I can, whether they're Olympic athletes or whether they're kids that are coming to Woodward for the first time, look at your community. Like, you didn't get here on your own. You got here because all those people encouraged you and inspired you. And, that especially in this kind of, sometimes in this day and age, can get lost real quick. And like you said, is it an age thing? Is it, just a personality trait? Who knows? Probably a little bit of both. But I can't forget where I've come from and the people that have joined me along the way on this journey.
That's awesome. Where did that work ethic come from? Has it always been in you?
When I find something I love, I just won't quit on it. I mean, going to work for me was to fund the BMX. So it was just the water to the flower. Anything that I love, I will work hard at it. Anything that I can't stand, I'll let it fall by the wayside. And that's how it should be in life. Why should you spend all your years flogging something that you're not happy about? Putting in the hard work when, the payoff, you don't get enjoyment from it. And yeah, I'd work 6 days a week, even 7 sometimes, to get extra money if I wanted to go to somewhere like America for a contest, to pay the airfare. But it was worth it because I was feeding what I loved. And that, to me, it was just the process. It was all part of the process.
It's all investing in yourself.
Yeah, go to work, get some money. We can go riding 4 times this week. I've got to work till 12. Well, do I go home or do I stop off, get a sandwich, and on the way to the skate park, I'll just do that. And it was just, that's all I was doing. I was just feeding the thing I loved the most, and that was BMX. And, to the day I die, and I hope I have a coffin made out of BMX parts, because I'll need something to ride when I'm upstairs with Mirra and Kev and all those dudes.
Is it maybe you have one made out of X Games medals? At least an urn, right? You can put make an urn out of X Games medals at this point.
Right? Yeah.
Maybe I'll make myself an infinity gauntlet.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Is it true that you don't have any medals or cups or trophies on display at your house?
Correct.
You have bicycles on your wall.
Correct.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Right. Here we go.
I like it.
No,
I think
that's
very interesting. Yeah.
Medals and trophies, to me, you point at them, you have to dust them down. People go, "Oh, what medal's this?" "Oh, that's the 2000 such and such medal." "Oh, cool. Yeah, great. Oh, that. Yeah, blah, blah. Oh, you got, yeah. Amazing. Oh, that's a different
You
trophy.
have so many. I have so few. Can I have one?
Oh, you've got 10.
Do you wear those out?
10 dew cups? What do you do with them all? I don't know. I don't even know where they all are, to be fair. I know I store cables in one of them, but, the medals, to me, don't really tell that much of a story.
Mm-hmm.
But yet people ask all the time about the bike that's on the wall with the snap crank arm, or what's the red bike? What did you do on that one? Why is this one on the wall? When did you ride this? Why are the dropouts 3 feet wide on this one? So to me, the bikes have more of a story than the medals.
Yeah, a lot more character too.
Yeah, a lot more character, and the medals are great, but it's such a fleeting moment, and I only ever celebrated a win for a day.
That's a rule.
Well, I'm not the type of person to still parade around after 6 months going,
yeah,
won the X Games, kids. Here I am.
I assume more in a mental sense. Like,
no.
you don't revel in that win for too long, or.
I enjoy the day. I enjoy the night. I enjoy the moment, and maybe the weekend too. If I'm not doing autographs and stuff like this, or if I'm not continuing to work. But it was never a prolonged celebration. I would always get back to riding bikes, because that was the most beautiful thing about the whole process anyway, was now I get to do it all over again. Now, guess what? I got to think up some more tricks. I got to be more creative. I got to think of new lines. I got to do that. That was the payoff. And when I look at all the bikes on the walls, they just make me happy, because I look at them and I go, wow, like that's only 10 years old and I'm running 7.5-inch bars. Just the weird things on there, the grips, the this, God, they don't make those anymore. Look at that. That's cool. And then when you explain those things to people and they look at them and they go, when did you ride this bike? I'll go, I rode this bike in 99 and this is what I did on this bike, and the really cool thing about this night was X, Y, and Z. And there's a story, and there's something more tangible than a medal with a ribbon on it.
Well, that bike was part of the process
bike was part of the process, and they can see that, and they can look at it, and you can touch it, and you can lift the weight, and to me, those are the stories.
Yeah,
that's the story of.
That's the we. The bike is part of
the
it.
Yeah,
it is a good way.
And hey, we'll touch on this again. Whenever you think you're an I, you're always a we, because you're holding on to a bike, and you're always saying me and my bike.
Yeah,
well,
true.
You're a we.
You're a we.
Wow.
So, like, you break that down in simple form, like that's pretty sick.
No, that's cool. I figured there was some, something along those lines with it. And then,
I have no problem walking into people's houses where it's a shrine to themselves, like where they've got, the checks on the wall.
I have an Aura Cup here,
Yeah.
That's there's not a name on it. It's not mine.
I have an Aura Cup too, and I got it. I got it out the other week, so that was quite fun.
Let's talk about that, because I feel like because sometimes there's even like questions of other categories, oh, why don't you guys do this? And I always brought up the vert category, because in the sense it was like, hey, the sample of people that are eligible and that are able to win is relatively small, and that if they really do stand out, like Bestwick did that year, where he rode vert, and they were like, vert is a fucking ramp, and Jamie fucking Bestwick rode ramps the best that year, and here's his Nora Cup.
Yeah.
So it was like, if he stands out, if that person stands out in their own spectrum, they will win a Nora Cup, hopefully, But.
Yeah, and quite rightly so. There's always been, to me, the certain categories of BMX. So you got flatland, you got dirt, you've got street, you've got ramps. Mm-hmm. Whether you call it transition or not. Skate parks, jump boxes, vert ramps, mega ramps, they all come underneath transitions or ramps. So, yeah, it's and to win against such a variety of riders across the transition category is awesome. At the end of the day, somebody's got to produce something pretty spectacular that year to walk away with the Nora Cup. And I would say, and this is just my honest opinion, the Nora Cup is one of the most prestigious things to win because it's voted on by your peers.
Yeah.
It's always voted on by your peers. It's not fan favorite, although you do a fan favorite now, which is great. And it's nice in this day and age to have that social interaction, to give people the opportunity to vote. However, because it's voted on by people that you have the utmost respect for within BMX, the people that you compete against, the people that you practice with, the people that you look for inspiration from yourself, to get that vote from them and for you to be the Nora Cup Rider of the Year, it doesn't get any more special than this.
Go. Try and kick the cat out of here.
Sorry.
I think she wants out. She was going to the door. There she goes.
There we go.
Bye, cat.
Yeah. And, it's like when Charlotte won it this year, I said, you need to cherish this one because this was voted on by everybody that was inspired by you and your performance. This is voted on by people you compete against. And, these don't come around every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's young, so they might for her. Who knows? She might end up doing a Garrett Reynolds and just
winning 13.
Winning 13 or however many is won. But it's special.
Yeah.
Any time your peers can vote for you to be the number one rider that year, that's something to cherish.
What, looping back to kind of the peak days, the Woodward, the deck of the ramp type stuff, being, the best in the world, being the top guy, what sacrifices were there? Friendships lost, those type of things, those Woodward weird stuff. Yeah, see, he's laughing at me.
We're going there now.
I mean,
this has all been in prepreparation for the Woodward Vert ramp stories.
No. No.
So I don't have to go there. That's cool. Okay, we won't go there then.
No, it's not all. It hasn't been all in prep for that.
Okay.
But that's part of the. I have a whole list of.
When I did go to Woodward, I saw the vert ramp and I just pictured you riding it. Like seriously, I looked at it and was like, "Yeah, you touched the roof on that.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like that. It is pretty surreal.
That's your ramp.
It is.
It is.
It's my ramp. It's I think I named the building Cloud 9. So, that's
little known fact. I did not know that.
That was a special moment down in the office with Gary Ream. He said, well, what do you think we should call it? I said, well, you got all the most perfect ramps up there, and you couldn't be any higher than Cloud 9.
Yeah, fucking
wow. Perfect.
There you go.
So, Cloud 9. Deck of the Vert ramp in the peak days of riding BMX Vert.
Who would be on the deck?
Who'd be on the deck?
Tom Stover.
Myself, Tom Stover, Keith McElhaney, Kevin Robinson, John Parker, Chad Kagi, Steve McCann, Art D. Ambrosio, Danny Parks.
Danny Parks, I haven't heard that name.
Yeah, Danny Parks from New York City. Pardal from, I think, Argentina. A guy named Pardal. He used to come up. There are a lot of people that used to come to camp and ride, and depending which time of year it was, you could have Dave up there, you could have a slew of different riders. Simon would come from time to time, and for the most part, it was a great atmosphere. Mm-hmm. You know, we all got along famously, and we all had some amazing sessions. Some of the sessions at Woodward on a weekly basis was like a contest. Mm-hmm. You literally walk in and people are five whipping the Vert ramp, and we're just doing the wildest stuff, and it's normal. Mm-hmm. This is the norm, and this is the norm that I created. You know, this is the new level of practice, which was great. And I think the more, I don't know if this is right to say this, but I always feel like money is a determining factor. But when money started really coming in and sponsorship started coming in and people wanted to be the best rider in the world, and they wanted to win this and they wanted to win that, things started to get a little frayed. Mm-hmm. On top of the Vert ramp, and people started taking sides, and there was this clique and there was that clique, and there was some choice words at times said on top of that Vert ramp. Many heated arguments, mm-hmm. Many fallings out. You know, one group would fall out with one and another, or they would fall out with a particular individual, and then then it would just, everything would smooth out, then it would happen again. And that was just, that was just how it was, because there wasn't that distance like there was between Woodward and Greenville. Mm-hmm. You were in the pressure cooker day in, day out at Woodward, and you were riding with guys that you knew that weekend you were going to compete against, and you knew what they were doing, they knew what you were doing, and it was always a bit of a...
And I'm sure there'd be games, so they would try and hide what they were doing versus what you were doing, or you were hiding what you were doing versus what they were doing. The sessions that were invite only, so to speak, they happened. People would have these sessions, or maybe it was just because I was notoriously late. That I would show up at the back end of sessions and people were like, dude, he's doing this on purpose. He's coming in late because he wants to just see the back end of our session when we're warmed up and get all our tricks, and then he's going to put 2 hours in on his own and just... And it was like, no, I was just late. Ask any of my friends. I'm 5 minutes late all the time. In fact, today I was early, so, 10 minutes.
That's, 10 minutes early. Impressive. But yeah, it... there were times when it got really frayed. And
was there friendships actually lost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there was.
That's a shame, obviously.
I think it is a shame. However, maybe some friendships didn't need to be friendships in the first place.
Yeah. If they were stronger friendships, they would
have lasted.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of envy, a lot of jealousy, that kind of stuff. And people wanted to, they wanted this and they wanted that. And, you would see, what was happening to one person, and then it would spike some jealousy in another. And then if somebody learnt a new trick, they'd go out and learn it. And all of a sudden you've got beef between two guys who are, I want to do the trick first. No, but I can do it now.
You
and
saw me try it.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. Yeah. Like, you're copying all my stuff. Like, let me do it. And it's just, honestly, the drama was never ending at times. And I mean, I've seen strong grown adults reduced to tears on top of that vert ramp. So,
really?
Yeah. Kind of a shame. But that unfortunately is a byproduct of, ego, competition, desire,
livelihood,
wanting to be the best, fame game. That's a fickle beast, that one.
Yeah.
Never got wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And it was, there were some amazing times on top of that vert ramp, but there was also some pretty sad times, and hey, I'm not a bloody saint. I was guilty of some of the stuff. Yeah. I mean, I was, kind of a hard guy to deal with back then. And I fell out with loads of people,
Do you feel that a lot of even just the falling out with multiple people was more so created because of the drive that you had?
No, maybe it was a quality within the person that I really didn't care for.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I guess let's move towards the streak ending. When the streak ended, was it a relief or was it a sadness?
I never got sad. Because I was constantly still trying to push it. However, I was hiding something that I was kind of vocal about.
I think I talked to you about
But I don't think anybody actually believed me because they just thought it was, oh, Jamie's losing a contest. He's pulling this one. Oh, my back. Oh, my leg. Oh, this. Oh, yeah, dude. He's just lost. Like, I mean, Vince ended my streak of,
how many
9. I got 9, and then I was going for 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, the whole thing with the streak was, after every time I won another one, the first thing anybody said is, and now you go for 8, and now you go for 9. Yeah. I won 9, and now you go for 10, double figures. And I'm like, when does it end?
Yeah.
Like, when's it going to end? And it's not that I didn't want to go out there and win again, but, you couldn't celebrate the night because the first thing people said was, and now you go for 10.
It just creates the whole
and then you're like, but I haven't even celebrated Happy birthday, number 9.
Oh, now you're going to be 10.
Yeah. And that's pretty much, that's how it was. And then
insatiable maybe is a good word for it.
Yeah,
they literally couldn't be satisfied. It was all about the next one.
Yeah, and that's what some people are like. They're always looking at stats. Sports are pretty much built around stats, and they want to know that you're going to come back next year and you're going for 10. And I came back the following year, and I was riding pretty darn good. I just wasn't feeling it that day. Sorry,
I'll just push it close to you.
And ultimately I lost, and Vince won, and I was very gracious in defeat, because that's something I've always, kind of prided myself on. And he did, on that day, he rode better than me, in the eyes of the judges. And the following year we came back, and I beat Vince.
Yeah.
And, that was just down to my desire, my experience, and I made a mistake of not doing a new trick the year before. Well, I did one, but it kind of went unnoticed.
Well, let's talk about the second place here, because what was the issue? It was something with your neck, right?
No.
Was it that year? Or was
that was later. So,
okay. So what was going on that year?
What, the year that I got second?
Yeah.
I just wasn't feeling the ramp. Like, I couldn't really connect with my bike and the ramp, and I couldn't get things going like I wanted to. I kept trying this stupid I was doing like a Superman Indian in the corner and then trying to go to a flare down whip, and it just wasn't working. But I was adamant that was the line because I'd done it at the Do Tour. And instead of just doing something else instead. But, I was pretty stoked. I did a front flare invert at that contest. I mean, I'm pretty sure I got a bit of a concussion from it, just from the landing alone, because I landed quite low on the front wheel. But I was pretty happy with how I rode at the contest, but it just wasn't a win. It wasn't a winning performance. So I got second that year, and you know what? Didn't bother me. It didn't. Like you say, was it a relief? Yeah, a little bit. Was I a bit bummed that I didn't do 10? Yeah, but it wasn't. It didn't cripple me at the time. And I'll get to something a little later when I carry on. And then came back next year. I beat Vince. And honestly, it wasn't about beating Vince. I just had to prove to myself again that I have the drive to go away, work hard, come back, put it all down on the ramp like I know I can do. And I went and did it. And then after that, I lost, I think, 3 straight. I got 3 silver medals. But the underlying issue was after I won in 2015 or 16? I think I won in 2016. The underlying issue was my lower back had started to deteriorate very badly. I had a disc trimmed earlier, and things just started to fail on my body. And on I think it was Father's Day, I went riding to Woodward, and I was 12 feet out the top of the vert ramp, and it's literally like somebody had touched me with a cattle prod, and I had a lightning bolt run down my leg, and I was in so much pain. I had to crawl out the building and crawl into the car and crawl into hospital, and I was in tears. It was so much pain, and it turns out I'd ruptured my disc. And the
mid-air.
Yeah,
that's when it decided.
It happened mid-air, and then it pushed the disc under my sciatic nerve, and then I lost the feeling down the left side of my leg, and then I've got X Games in 2 weeks, and now I'm trying to figure out how to ride a BMX bike with 1.5 legs. So I was riding on the inside of my left foot because that's the only thing I could feel. My calf wasn't working, my quad wasn't working. I had a knee brace on just so I could give myself enough leg stability to pump.
Wow.
And I can remember you taking photos of me there, and I was just
I think that was the year we did the interview. I went to your hotel room for the monster video and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. I was really struggling, but when you are defending champion, or
that's what it was. The video was called "Defending the Gold," and Jamie, I'm interviewing Jamie, and he's like, "Yeah, my leg's not working."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh fuck." So,
and when you are the defending champion, you can't have an excuse. You can't just turn up and go, "My leg's playing up today. I'm just not feeling it." Everybody's like, "Oh, he's trying to pull this card. He wants some sympathy from the judges. He wants those early points," and you're just like, no, literally, I can't feel my leg. And I went out and rode the contest, and it was the one where I did the alley-oop 5 whip and ice picked on the way in. Well, I was a winner that one.
Repeat that one.
I will never be able to repeat that one. So, but thankfully, ESPN captured it, and we have it all on film. And even with the microphone in the coping, it just accentuated the noise of the peg hitting the coping. So that's a keeper. But for the next 3 years, my life basically went down the drain with spine issues. And when was it? It was the year after. I was riding Vert, and little Kev, Kevin Robinson Jr., was on top of the ramp, and he was riding, and then he popped out, sat there. And I rode in, and I did an opposite flare, and for something happened. Something went wrong. And when I landed so heavy that it put my head down. And by the time I looked up, I ran full speed into the resi.
Oh, wow.
And when I hit the resi, it twisted my body and then slammed me against the resi. And I can remember at the time getting a massive Charlie horse, and I was like, this really hurts. And I was like, I've got to go home. So I packed up my stuff, went home. My back's sore, but I did land twisted, and it was a pretty violent crash. And then, 5 days later, off we go to X Games, and, riding practice. I'm doing the best I can. I feel pretty good, and everything's going all right. And then I was sat in the athlete lounge, and I'm sat there watching, I think, mega practice, something like that. And I turned to Kerry and I said, I'm going to have to stand up. Flipping, my legs have gone numb just from sitting down here on these hard seats all this time. So I stood up and went a walk around for a couple minutes, grabbed a drink, came back, and I said, Kerry, my legs are still numb. Mm. And she said, you need to call Greg. So I called my spine surgeon, Greg. I said, Greg, my legs have gone numb. He said, right, can you get to my office, within the hour? I said, no, I'm in Minneapolis and I'm riding Vert finals tonight. And he was like, okay, whatever you do not crash your bike. And I was like, fair enough. And for the rest of the day, I didn't know, and then this was the scary part, I didn't know whether or not I needed to go to the toilet. Like, I literally had very little sensation from the hips down to my feet. And I'm starting to get really concerned now.
Pull the Pat Casey.
I don't know what a Pat Casey is.
Pat Casey pooped himself at X Games.
I didn't poop myself at X Games.
Sorry, Pat.
For the record. But, hey, birds shit in the woods.
Yeah.
So,
That's where Pat Casey lives, at X Games.
At X Games. But I got really scared, and I rode the contest that night, and it was the one where DMC got knocked out, and then he ran around the back of the ramp, shimmied his way up onto the top of the railing where he had the spare bike, and then pulled the 900, and everybody's like, 50-year-old guy pulls the 900. Yeah. And I was just like, I was, it was just that night, but I rode in, and I was so scared that if I crashed, that it may be the one thing that every BMXer or every athlete fears the most. Mm-hmm. Sitting in the wheelchair, losing the loss of legs, like it's something you can come to terms with, but it's crippling too, and I love to ride bikes, and I just didn't want to give up that. So to your credit, I had no idea. Nobody did. Yeah, like I wasn't. Yeah. If you tell somebody what they're going to do, they can be like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, you must be in agony. It's like, well, no, it doesn't look like I am, does it? Yeah. And then I came back the following year, and I had my spine fused, and then... Well, I have a question. Why the fuck did you drop in?
Passion.
Because...
Yeah,
it's everything I love. Again, I was there to represent all the people in my community, and now my community has spread to everybody all over the world. Yeah. All the people that have inspired me around the world, in America and everywhere we've been, and then to go in that ramp and to ride and to enjoy myself, and to make all the sacrifices they and I have made along the way, still stand for something, and also, I'm a professional, and whether sponsored riders like to admit it or not, you work for companies. Mm-hmm. Much like I went to work to fund my the gas for my car, and to pay my bills and to pay the entry to skate parks. The sponsors that I ride for now allow me to still live my dream, and I've always took pride in doing the best job I can in order to keep that dream going. I have a responsibility to them, and for all the great things they do for me, in return, I will stand on the front lines and throw myself into battle. You know, I'm not going to be that guy that goes, I'm sorry, but I've got an excuse why I can't ride this one this year. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, they've put everything into this event. Get your ass on the line, regardless of what state you're in. And it's stupid. And I don't recommend it to anybody, but that's just me.
Yeah. That's what makes you you. You know, like in reality. So.
Well, it makes you want to take a little bit of that. Like you said, it's not for everybody, but hearing it can help another person maybe dig something out of themselves, at least give a little bit more effort, you know, or to take their situation a little bit better. Even to myself, hearing it is like, yeah, like take it in, like listen, maybe apply a little bit more effort on my behalf, even if I feel like, I don't want to do it today. I do like treating it like a job, but like hearing it from the best, you know, is just a reminder, like firsthand hearing it. So
at some point it does become a job. I mean, at the end of the day, it's
a good fucking job.
It's the best job I've ever had. Yeah. It really is, but it's also the hardest job I've ever had. I've had to work harder at this career, at this job, whatever you want to call it, than I've ever done at any other time in my life. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I enjoy. Again, it goes back to, you know, I get to do what I love, and I'll do anything for the thing I love. I will feed the thing I love, anything. I'll go to all the lengths in the world for it. And, you know, if that means just dropping in a little under the weather and still being able to produce a podium.
A little under the weather.
I have a question that's kind of like on the lines of that. How old were you when you turned pro?
Good question. I think I was like 19. But pro in England was basically
riding a pro contest.
The A level. So
what about sponsored pro?
When like I rode the highest level I could in England, but I wasn't necessarily a sponsored pro. And also you got to remember, there's two different types of sponsored pro. There's product sponsored pro, and there is product and financially sponsored pro. Right. And I wasn't a financially sponsored pro for a very long time. I would always get, you know, like, I think my first sponsor I ever got was by Hutch, and they gave me somebody's old race jersey, old pants, and a fourth hand cracked frame and a second hand pair of Woody bars.
Nice.
How about that for it? Yeah. So any kid out there that starts bitching that, I didn't want the purple frame that they sent me, God. I wanted black. It's like, dude, quit bitching.
Do you feel that you working and, you know, having the drive to ride BMX, but like working within that to fund your way around, whether it's the skate park, entry to skate parks, contests and stuff like that, do you think that helped mold you into how you handle your professional sponsored situation where you start to get actually paid to make a living off of bike riding? Do you feel, coming from a hard working like situation, like I have to go to work every day to be able to do this, do you feel like that helped you kind of focus more in onto riding and take it a little bit more seriously, and on top of the friends too and stuff? But
by going to work, I understood the value of $1 and how hard you have to work to earn $1 or £1. Yeah. So when I became a professional rider, and all of a sudden I was riding for, you know, money that I'd never even knew existed, for a person like me, then I appreciated that, and I put more work into that because it was a better paying job. You know, if you're working for minimum wage at your regular place of work, and somebody gives you a promotion to a manager, and all of a sudden you're earning 3 times as much, you'll have understood the value of $1 by working right at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And now you've been promoted, people have seen value in you, and you come from a different place of work ethic now because you understand the grind, and now you've got to elevate yourself to meet the new level of grind that is being asked from you. Right. So that's all it was. It was, you know, I cut my teeth early on in the working world and on the building sites and on the in the factories, And
wasn't your dad a coal miner as well? Isn't that like the heart? I mean, isn't that?
Yeah, my dad was a mining engineer. Yeah, he went down the coal mines and.
Seeing your dad work his ass off his entire life.
He would come in at 9 at night after leaving at 7, and long days. But where we lived in Derbyshire was a very big mining area, so he wasn't the only one. But he was an engineer, so he also had an office job, but he still did have to go to the mines to go down there. In fact, when I was 5, we emigrated to South Africa because my dad went to work in a gold mine.
Oh wow!
So we did that for a year, and then he left South Africa because it wasn't working out. But yeah, I've always been around mining families, and anybody that knows the mining community knows that they're the hardest working guys.
I would imagine.
It's such an intense and scary job going down.
Because it's like not only just like real crazy manual labor, but it's real harsh on your inside of your body. Like
I'm sure it takes
breathing, like so many things that go into it that slowly can hurt you, like over years and years, right?
You're right. And just think back then.
Precautions.
The precautions back then were slim to none. Just turn a blind eye.
He's coughing again.
Yeah,
like,
today's safety routine is shut up.
Nobody had face masks. I mean, today, if HR went down a mine of the yesteryear and looked at the working conditions, oh my gosh, lawsuits aplenty. It was just anything goes at that time. It was just work, and that's what people expected. It was just work. It's just what you did. So learning those values, it helped me when I did become a professional bike rider, because not only did I understand the meaning and the value of money, but also what it took to acquire it and how hard you had to work and how you had to work smarter too, depending on, what you were trying to achieve.
And that's a regular theme on the podcast, is the idea of when you become a professional, you've arrived. And that people tend to take it for granted, and the hard work that they did to get to that level kind of falls off once they get there. Yeah, and that's something that we try and instill and talk about. Is like, hey, just because you arrived, just because you got the goal or whatever it is, it means that now you just work hard.
And smarter, like you said, harder and smarter. Like not just, I'm just collecting it just to keep going, but like literally working smarter, and also just. Now you have to grind even harder just to keep, or you get more. You've
arrived at the destination that requires the most work now. So get cracking. You did all this here, and that got you noticed. That did exactly what you wanted to have happen. I want to be noticed by someone. I want to be a pro rider. Welcome to the team. Hooray, I've arrived. Okay, get to work. Now's the real work, okay? If you feel you've arrived, where have you arrived to? You're a part of a team of heavy-hitting dudes. Now you've got to stand heads and shoulders above these guys, and you've got to inspire them, and you've got to bring your passion to the world of BMX, and you've got to show everybody why and how you've earned this spot on a prestigious team. And, people forget that. They forget, like, now I have to go to work. I just thought I was going to collect a paycheck and sit by the pool and look good. It's like, now's the real time to go to work. This is it.
In the same vein, do you consider yourself like a naturally talented BMX rider? Did you take to it well?
I was the worst BMX rider in my town. all my friends were amazing. I had a $99 bike. My friends all had Horror Masters and GT Performers and Hutch Trickstars and these super glamorous bikes.
It's so funny when you talk about showing off, and then the names, the names of those bikes back then were Performer and Trickstar. Like that is it's so fits
Horror Master.
It was like screaming, "Look at me!"
Like, just like
names,
it is. I mean, BMX was built. It was kind of glamorous. It's like 80s shoulder pads and suits. It's like, check me out. But that's what BMX was, and that's why I loved it. It was like bright bikes, uniforms, colors, all the accessories. It was like, It's like the old, you remember when you got a G.I. Joe? In England, we called him Action Man. Like, you would get a G.I. Joe figure, and he would be very generic. Mm-hmm. You would get Commando G.I. Joe, or like, Scuba Diver, but you'd never get the full kit. But you could buy all the accessories to make G.I. Joe an absolute badass. Mm-hmm. That was BMX.
Yeah.
BMX, you would buy a BMX bike, and you'd be like, wow, that's awesome. Go to the bike shop, and there'll be a wall of accessories, much like there is these days. And you just pick and choose, and you make this thing of beauty, your thing of beauty. And you personalize it, give it a name, put different decals on it, change things around, and it's yours. And that excitement, that's what drew me to BMX. That's what I loved about it, is that showing off element. Like, like old guys with old cars, they tart them up, they polish them up, and they take them to the coffee shop on a Saturday morning, and it's a car show. Come check out my Mustang.
Nice. So you sucked.
I sucked. Yeah, everybody in my town was amazing. Like, they really were amazing. And it's funny because a few years ago, at the height of the X Games, I went home and I was walking back towards my mum and dad's house. I'd gone somewhere to get something. And I just heard this van stop, and a friend of mine got out and was like, Jamie. And I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? He's like, good, yeah, what are you doing here? I said, just come back to see my mum and dad. And he was like, oh, mate, my kids watch you on X Games. He's like, oh, they love you. He's like, oh, my gosh, you're doing amazing. Like, your riding's crazy and all this stuff. And I looked at him. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, still working in the family business and doing this, that, and the other. And I said, isn't it funny that you were the best rider around here, hands down? He used to win all the contests. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, those days are kind of done. I was like, yeah, but you went out and got a car and a girlfriend and all this stuff, and you've just you sold it. They all sold their bikes. Mm-hmm. The minute they left schools, they got sports cars and they got girlfriends and all this stuff, and got into drinking and basically the English lifestyle, all the trappings of what was success at that time. And they left that BMX bike by the wayside. And it sucked because they were so good. Mm-hmm.
But
that's life, Yeah. And I didn't have a car, didn't pass my test till I was 19, and I just loved riding my bike. Every time I could be on the bike, I was doing it. I was either cleaning it for the BMX club, or I was just riding down the street, or going to the track and jumping the tabletop, or just reading magazines. Anything to do with BMX, that was me. And I just ground away until I had a breakthrough, and I felt, I'm actually quite good at this.
If you could tell yourself something from now to when you were younger, what would it be? When it came to, it could be anything. You don't have to have anything to do with bike riding. It could be family related, just stuff in general. Because I think, like, advice. Yeah, like, what would you tell your younger self?
Well, other than buy Apple stock at $1. No, in all fairness, I think I would just, if I met myself when I was younger, I think I'd just put my hand on my shoulder and say, you're going to enjoy these years. Yeah. This is going to be a wild one. Get ready. Because if I gave myself advice from the future, I would have changed
paradox
everything.
Yeah.
I would.
So
change
you wouldn't
everything.
change anything, basically.
It's made me the person I am today.
Yeah.
Good or bad. I mean, I've had some wild experiences along the way, and I've met some of the greatest people, and I've ridden and seen the most amazing things on a BMX bike, and ridden with the best riders in the history of the sport, hands down. And I wouldn't change it for the world. You have to go through these things as a human to grow. Mm-hmm. All the experiences of breaking bones, and, all the highs, all the lows, the countries that you travel to, the people that you meet, if that was all taken away, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys.
No.
I'd be somewhere else. I'd probably be working for, a different company or doing something, and I wouldn't be in the States.
No.
Everything leads you to your final destination.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably wouldn't say anything. you know, if I did have any advice for myself back then,
like, don't go out with that one girl or something like that.
I didn't go out with her. That was the thing. My future self did come back, and he was like, "Yo, don't go out with that girl." No, that was the thing. Like, I used to have a slew of girlfriends when I was young, but our relationship was dictated by the vert ramp.
Yeah.
So I used to.
It's raining today. How are you? Oh, it's sunny today.
No, it wasn't even that.
Yeah, it's probably indoor ramp, actually.
No, it was outdoor, and the vert ramp was in a pub car park, and it was amazing. It was this 10-foot vert ramp in a pub car park, so you could ride vert and then go to the pub.
And then go ride vert.
And then go ride vert, which I never did that. I never did that. I wasn't that professional, But, you know, a lot of my relationships early on were just based on, you know, maybe they were just needy women that I was with. And they were like, oh, I want to go to the cinema tonight. Should we hang out? And I'd be like, you know what? Sun's out. It's not going to go in till about 9. Everybody's riding vert. I'm like, I can't tonight. Yeah. Sorry. Where are you going? I'm riding BMX again. Why'd you ride that bike all the time? Because it's really good fun, and it costs me no money.
Exactly. Yeah. That is a struggle. When I, you know, girlfriends over the years are like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I ride bikes." And then outside of that, everything else costs money. You know, like you're like, "Oh, my pastime has been free for my entire life. You don't pay for it," and it's like. Such an interest. You spend money to go do something.
And if you do spend money BMX wise, you're paying for the experience that it's gonna stick with you for life, right? Yeah. It's not gonna be just like
fleeting thing.
Yeah.
It's funny, the idea of like growing up and then you meet friends outside of BMX and you're like, oh, everything costs money to like other hobbies cost money.
Yeah.
You know, outside of the bike, it was like everything's free. So
it is.
What did we ever circle back to the final gold medal?
No, the final gold medal we did. It was the one in Austin, Texas. It was the last time it was at Circuit of the America.
So, okay. What happened at the last X Games that happened?
What happened at the last X Games?
Is that the one that you dropped in and with the numb legs? Was that the final one?
Oh, no, the last gold medal.
So that's what happened. That's where we left off, because then you went and got your back fused.
I got my back fused, and at the last X Games that I went to, I was sitting in first after the first round, after 2 runs. But when I was going in to ride my second run, just don't know. Like I was just getting this feeling like I'd never had before, and it was almost like as a top competitor, people always look to you for guidance and help because they see you as being incredibly strong and a pillar of strength. So like with Olympic athletes or, you know, new generation of kids coming up and you're giving people advice, you know, they look to you as that guy's rock solid. He's unwavering. He doesn't need any help. But I was at that contest and I knew I was kind of done because all I needed to do was just to talk to somebody. And I just needed somebody to say, like, everything's good, you know. It's all right. Just go in and ride your bike and have fun. And I looked around and I just thought, there really is nobody that's going to offer me this today. And then I sat with it for a second. And then I thought, my job's done. I've literally taught everybody how to be competitors now. And that's how it should be. Yeah. And I'm going to let this guy run with it because he's hungry for it and I'm not. Yeah. And that was the difference. And he's not looking for alliances on the vert ramp. He's just looking to get the job done. Yeah. Much like I was when I figured things out. And I said, this is perfect. I'm happy. Yeah. And I was. And I walked away from that contest and I was very content and I was very happy knowing that Vert's going to be all right. People are still going to ride Vert. They're still going to do the most amazing things. It's going to still light people up as much as it did back in the day. And we're still going to see the progression of Vert filter down onto the smaller ramps.
Mm-hmm.
And the way people ride park courses. So, yeah, it was almost like a pat on the back. Like, well done.
Yeah. So I'm reading between the lines, but if, obviously COVID hits, there's no more, X Games actually announced Japan yesterday, ironically, but up until then, I still have no idea if there's an X Games going to happen next year stateside. If there's a Vert contest, are you going to ride in it?
No.
No.
No, I don't have the time to dedicate to, being the rider that I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of dedication, and, you have to sacrifice many things in your life. And I just don't see that I'm at that point now where I really want to do that. And I'm not going to be the old man on the ramp that is just sending something with every finger and toes crossed that I land it in the hope of acquiring something.
Yeah.
I just don't need to do it. I get more enjoyment now helping other people achieve their goals.
Wow.
And, seeing them, reach their moment that, they realize that they've got something special and that they can run with it, and they can, stand on the head and shoulders of everybody that came before them,
mm-hmm.
On those shoulders of giants. And yeah, so that's what lights me up now.
That's
and, the Vert ramp is an unforgiving ramp. And I just don't think it's a playground for a 50-year-old anymore. Although I do ride it when I'm at home, and
I see it.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm still addicted to it.
And I want to give you a compliment in the sense that the fact that if the competitive side, I don't know if that's even been said publicly that you're not going to ride another Vert contest, but if that you've known that for a long time, and yet you're still go to Woodward and do a fucking 540 lawnmower tap on a 4-foot ramp and have fun, and you post fun clips, and you're riding shit and eating shit and riding Vert, and I think that just shows like the love that you have for it. So I think that's like because sometimes when it's like I guess like the Miron thing, once I'm done competing, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm done riding. And Miron of course has shown up to. There's been those spottings of Miron riding a little bit here and there, but like. I think your love for BMX just like rings through in your everyday posting. I'm like, Jamie's out there fucking having fun. It's Wednesday. Like
this dude kind of brings in like I did a little something yesterday. Like I was with Nathan, mm-hmm. and I told him I was coming here today, and Nathan Williams told me to tell you hello. And I asked him if he had a question that he would like to ask you. Mm-hmm. Like I know it's kind of random, but it's it's kind of like going hand in hand with what you're talking about now. But the question is like, first he said, tell Jamie I said hello. And he's like, how have you gone about the later part of your career? And was there a point that you told yourself, I would want to be still riding at X age, what age? Or has it been flowing organically? So it's like, I guess he's asking, like, did you give yourself like a time period when you would stop? Or like throughout the career, have you just been going with it, how you feel organically?
I've been in a 40-year relationship with BMX. There's no time limit on it. You don't find a significant other and go, I'm going to marry you, but when we're 50, we're done. Wow. I mean, the divorce courts would just be lighting up left, right, and center. But it's BMX is never something that I've put a time limit on. Who am I to dictate what my interaction is with BMX? My love will always be the determining factor for BMX. If I want to go ride my bike, I'm going to go ride it. If I want to do this trick, I'm going to do it. There's no time limit on it. I'm hoping that the day I take my dying breath, I'm surrounded by my loved ones, like everybody wants to be. You want to be surrounded by the people that you love. And I'm thinking about doing a tabletop with the tire on my back, putting a dirty grey Crest oil mark on a brand new crispy white shirt, 14 feet over the height pole. And I hope if I have that, I've lived a good life. Because that's all. Nothing should have a time limit. Things that you love shouldn't have a time limit. A time limit is a movie. A time limit is a parking meter. You know, BMX doesn't have a time limit. Wow. It doesn't. And who are you to dictate that? You know, if you really feel that you don't enjoy it anymore, you're going to move on to the next and find the next thing that you love. So, you know, you do that. But you'll always cherish your time in BMX. It'll never finish because it can't. Like, those years are ingrained into you. You take them with you, and they're the foundations of what have built you as a person. They truly are. 100%. And I am so blessed that my dad bought me a bike when I was 10 years old, and I grew up in BMX because I can't think of any other sport that has taught me so many valuable lessons in life and to mold me as a man. I encourage BMX to anybody I meet, and they might have their own opinions of it, and they might see it for guys playing on kids' bikes, but it's just so much more than that. It is so much more than that. And real love never dies. You know, whether you put the bike down, whether you sell the bike, whether you step out of the sport and go do something else, that love is always going to be within you. And it'll always mold what you do next. You'll always take the passion of what you had for BMX into what you do next. So it can't leave you. It can't. You can't erase your life.
Wow.
Valid. Good question. Good question, Nathan.
Good question, Nathan. Man.
Nathan Williams. I like Nathan Williams. No. We always joked about the Nathan Williams and Corey Martinez Levi's flyaway hat.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Is like for every street rider that does like a bunny hop, it's that like the hat flies off.
Did you see the clip of the 75-year-old guy bunny hopping?
I did, yeah. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
A proof to what you were just saying.
Obviously, I feel like he had to pick start riding at, you know, I mean, BMX hasn't been around 75 years, let alone, so he had to start riding either recently or 40 years ago, right?
He might have been.
So, I mean, I guess 50,
riding
60
for 65 years. Who knows?
Yeah. Or he could have just been very athletic and just I'll try this.
Think about all the people that you know throughout this pandemic that had ridden BMX, left the bike, and during the pandemic came back to BMX and bought a BMX bike. Yeah. Yeah. You know, whether it be a cruiser or a repop of a GT or a Haro or anything like that.
That's true.
So many people have come back into it, and again, it goes back to that timeline thing.
Mm-hmm.
The love is
part of them.
BMX is going to be a part of you. It's always in there, and it's always going to come back to you, and it's always going to transfer into what you do next. That love will always be there. Yeah. And I'm so happy that, you know, that the one good thing about this whole, I guess the silver lining about this whole thing is that, you know, people have choose bikes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. BMX, you know, bike companies although, you know, there is, you know, an alternate side to it. Bike companies have moved a lot of BMXers. And I'm happy to see that. A lot of my friends are in the BMX industry. They're moving bikes. They have bike shops. They have bike distros. They're moving units, and that's great. Yeah, that is great.
That's a good thing. So you brought up the Olympics. We should definitely talk about your role there. I mean, I feel like I've been coached for the last hour and a half by you. I mean, inspired.
Yeah,
you know, like in a sense,
yeah.
like I couldn't help but while you're talking, thinking like, wow, having you on your side or having you on my side while I was about to drop in and getting words like that would like it has to have an impact on guys like Declan and Charlotte. You know, that experience, how you got in there. What impact you felt you had, what it meant for you. I mean,
what was your like? Yeah. How did you like prepare to go into it? Like,
maybe the full range. Just give it
the full range. Yeah. Okay. We started in 2018, and we all met at Daniel Des, the skate park.
Never heard of him.
That guy is so overrated. He's just a set of pearly white teeth and, you know, a 18-pound bike that seems to do miraculous tail whips out of fresh air. I love Des.
Very talented.
I love Logan. Yeah. I know he's gonna. Yeah. I know he's gonna hear it, so that's fine.
Yeah, well, it'll be good. Yeah. But no, we all met in 2018, and you know, I saw the team, and I wasn't a coach. I'm a guy still competing. Mm-hmm. I'm a guy still competing, and I'd never even thought about being a coach. And there's a difference between being a professional rider and a coach. And you try and hand down your years of wisdom to the riders, and you try and steer them in a direction. But when you're still heavily involved in the sport, you know, you're trying to give 100% to your own riding career, and you're trying to give 100% to coaching these new kids that are going to the Olympics, something bigger than anything we've ever been to before. Although I will say that before the Olympics, the X Games were the Olympics. Yeah. That was the Olympics. You win the X Games, and actually the X Games was harder to get into than the Olympics. Oh my gosh, so hard! Like in the initial, you know, in the glory years, you had to go through so many contests just to get your name on the roster for the X Games. Then you had to qualify, and it was like, I don't know, 30, 40 riders down to 10, then 10 to the final. Yeah. So, you know, X Games was our Olympics, but, you know, all I was ever given was, you know, 25% to coaching, 75% to my riding. And I still had aspirations, even though they weren't, you know, producing gold medal performances anymore. I was still a professional. I worked for, you know, I had my sponsors. I still had a job to do for them, and I still had to maintain the focus because vert riding is very unforgiving. Like I said earlier, the ramp will eat you alive. So, you know, there was still a massive emphasis on what I wanted to get out of BMX. But I was trying to help these guys and kind of steer them in the right direction. And, you know, when you're with an English team of riders, and the initial group, they'd had some success. Not a whole lot, you know. I mean, Alex Colburn was probably the best of the bunch, and he was the number 2 that year at the Feast events, and he'd won a couple contests here and there, so he was the standout. But everybody else they were unproven, really untested. I would say mediocre is a good word to say for the UK team. Yeah. We weren't. Yeah. We weren't great. We weren't bad. Yeah. We were just good.
I think if you were to tell me in 2018 that Declan would win a medal at the Olympics, I would be very surprised. Because Declan he's a powerful rider, like one of my favorite dudes, because he was a little wild, you know, like he'd like do those, you know, the sub box, like big sub box manuals and stuff like that, and kind of explode. And I loved it. You know, I love that type of riding. No offense to anybody else, but like, where, you know, he could fucking eat shit at any moment type dude, you know. Yeah. So, and little known fact, first time I ever saw Declan, he was hammered and he threw an apple at the wall in the hotel, and it exploded everywhere, and he got kicked out of the hotel.
Nice one. Yeah. Not much has changed. Yeah. Not much has changed.
Yeah, so you guys had you guys weren't expecting.
Yeah, we weren't an inherent threat to any podium per se. So here we are. We have this team, and the girls that we have were very underconfident. They were coming from different backgrounds. I wouldn't say they were knowledgeable in BMX. But they had potential, and I saw Declan before we all got together in North Carolina at the monster competition. I forget the name of it, Recon Tour, over at South Bend, Indiana, Brett Banasewicz's park, and I saw Declan ride there, and the gaps and the lines he was taking at Brett's park, even Brett hadn't done them.
Oh wow!
And I was like, wow, this kid's special. First time I'd ever seen him ride. I knew he was from South Sea, and I'd visited South Sea Skate Park many years. But yeah, he was a special breed back then. But I would say 2018 wasn't a defining year for the program. The first contest we went to in Hiroshima was all right. Expectations were high on Alex being the number one and kind of the team leader at the time, and he fell a little bit by the wayside, even though he was in the final. And the girl, Charlotte, she did quite good, to say she was a scooter rider come BMX rider, and she was very inexperienced, and this was her first ever contest. She did amazing, absolutely amazing. So, the first contest in Hiroshima got off to a decent start, and then we really started making some massive mistakes after that. BMX and old BMX started to rear its head. You go to Montpellier, you don't have to have been living under a rock for 90 years to know that Montpellier is the biggest party in BMX. We had Mark Webb on the team. We had all these guys, and they'd be lying if they didn't say that they indulged in all the things that FIS had to offer on that weekend.
Did Declan throw another apple?
No, he didn't. But we literally went there with a squad of 8, and no one made the final.
Oh wow, yeah,
right?
That's not a good weekend.
That's a terrible weekend. One guy ended up in hospital with a chipped elbow. I won't say who his name is, from Wales, James Jones. And everybody else just blew up. Yeah. And, it was that was a big night. I actually nearly quit.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, why am I doing this?
For the same, I'm guessing for the same reason of hey, we're all making sacrifices. I'm here in France for you, and you guys are fucking off.
Yeah.
Do you feel like within that too, like, do you feel a bit of yourself, like wasting your time to a degree, because how much you've given up, how many sacrifices you made, and how hard like you push yourself and you devoted yourself to this? Was it hard to not hold everybody to like the same light of how you hold yourself?
Same level.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think a lot of it was because I wasn't 100% into. So there's a part of what happened in the early contest that I'm to blame for too. If you're not all in, then how can you expect to lead all in? You have to come from a coach's, that's the place of leadership. You're the one who rallies the troops. You're the one who, dictates, what we do and when and how we do it. And I wasn't doing that too. And I was falling short, and maybe because we were all only putting 25% in, and BMX, as we all know, at some of the more party style events can get a little out of control. We were all guilty of that, and we paid a severe price. And maybe that was our San Francisco moment, so to speak. That was a moment where I myself sat everybody down and gave everybody a bit of a bollocking, and I said, hey, if you want another coach, by all means, go get one. Like, if you think I'm some old guy that's just harping on about random stuff, then hey, go get a young guy. If you can relate to somebody better, then go get them. I'm like, because I feel like we're all not working very well together, and we're all making mistakes. And when we're really not understanding the opportunity that we have right now, we're going to the Olympics. It's not going to be Montpellier. There's not going to be beer and crazy parties and Tyler Rizzi running around with a video camera going nuts. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, we've got to get professional, and we've got to get professional very quick, because that's what the UCI dictates, and that's what the Olympics dictates. So we went away. People trained. I think the next one was in Canada. We had a little bit of success there with Charlotte, and then we all went to Chengdu, and that's when Declan came back, because Declan had a broken ankle all year. So he missed the first 3 events, and then he came back in China and ends up getting 3rd place behind Dennis. Jake Warwick won that one. It was a battle between Dennis and Jake Warwick, and I'm telling you, that was some of the most insane riding I've ever seen. Yeah. Those 2 guys, Dennis's natural ability pushed Jake far beyond any riding he thought he could ever produce, and what he produced was just exceptional. So, Declan got 3rd, and we were like, right, this is it. This is the start.
This is the momentum you need to.
Yeah. So, Declan went out all night, celebrated like any true BMXer, rolled in, absolutely hammered, and then didn't even qualify for the World Championships. So that just goes to show you.
Because that was the one where there was the contest a week later, and then so Dennis got 2nd, and then Dennis pieced out, right?
Had a cold, yeah. He came down with a cold.
Yeah, he's already explicitly said that he didn't get a cold, so you're good.
Yeah, no, there was honestly, like, so much stupid shit happened that week,
I think that was the beginning of kind of the Olympics, and to Dennis's thing was like, whoa, this is getting a little more serious, and I got in trouble for doing fakies on the course. And it was like the rules got a little weird for him.
Yeah, it was bad, but Declan got a little bit over exuberant with the celebrations, and it caused him not to qualify at the Worlds a week later. And Charlotte knocked herself out in practice, and amongst many other people that went down at that competition, and it ended up Ben Wallace did the best out of everybody. 5th place, killed it, absolutely killed it. And I think it was just a real reminder to everyone that you can't take your eye off this game for a second. You can't revert back to what you thought worked before. This old BMX lifestyle isn't going to work in this new, venue that we're being asked to compete in, which is the Olympics. The Olympics is so strict. I think anybody that's ever seen the Olympics sees the magnificence of what it is visually and athletically, but they also know that there's absolutely massive consequences to anyone who tries to bend the rules at the Olympics. There's a certain lifestyle that you have to adhere to, and maybe Party Time BMX isn't on that list of things.
Non-conformist BMX as well.
Yeah, non-conformist, hey, we're freestyles, we do whatever we want. If I want to party till 3 a.m., I'm going to do it. If
I want to ride the course right now, I want to ride the course right now.
Of course.
Like, stuff like that. But I mean, even from I was interested in going shooting the Olympics. I'm like, I can't shoot video. I have to be in this little corral. I have to be, and I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm out.
Yeah, like, of course. The Olympics has so many rules,
and that was pre-COVID.
That's pre-COVID. So the Olympics has so many rules that go far outside the athletic abilities and requirements on course. So 2018 was a huge learning curve. 2019 more the same. We had some success, we had some failures, and we just kept learning. And then obviously in 2020 and let's turn the lights off. And everybody got parked. And the one thing that I did see around the world was riding didn't really stop for a lot of people going to the Olympics.
For anybody, really, as far as I could tell.
The English guys did. Everywhere got closed. I used to be on the weekly Zoom calls where we used to do quizzes because we were trying to keep the guys engaged. And, you know, they were sat at home. They were quarantined and confined to the house. Skate parks were closed. They could not ride. But then you go on Instagram, and everybody who's got their own little private Idaho at the house is riding away, and everything's grand, and they're learning new tricks, and I'm having my best day, I'm living my best life, that kind of Instagram stuff. And I've got guys sat at home not able to ride, and we've got to keep them happy, and we've got to try and, you know, keep them stimulated, keep them focused, and understand that this is just part of the process. So then the world comes back online and people can go to skate parks. And then I think at the beginning of 2021 is when I was done finally with everything I wanted to do in my BMX career. You know, there was no more X Games. And I just, should I even go this deep?
Fuck it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say working as a BMXer, working for a federation is interesting. You know, with a federation comes its own set of rules, and you know, much like on top of the vert ramp, you know, there's always going to be petty little arguments and office type crap that, you know, you have to deal with. But you know, a team only works efficiently with a good leader, and you know, and you need that in order to get the job accomplished. And yeah, I just felt that, you know, maybe after COVID, it's probably time for me to, I don't know, maybe I just didn't want to do this, you know? I didn't want to go to the Olympics. And maybe the things that were happening, you know, in and around the program, I just wasn't super comfortable with. You know, I would knock heads with people, you know, because I'm on the other side of the world, zooming in to meetings and to riding sessions, and it really wasn't doing anything for me. It didn't light my world on fire. I didn't feel like I was of any value. I wasn't contributing, you know. It was all very...
Too distant. The distance was just too much.
Everything was too distant. But when the world comes back online, you know, airplane travel is so convenient. You know, I can be back in England. Yeah, I can leave my house at 7 at night. I can be there at 9 a.m. in the morning. That's how convenient the world is these days. But in 2021, there was a moment on a call, and I got really frustrated, and I said, well, you know, I kind of made a choice. I was like, well, I'm either in or I'm out. I'm leaving this program, or I'm staying on, and I am going to get these guys to fulfill their goal. We'd always talked about it, what the goal was. I knew what it was.
Do you mind if I ask, like, what the frustration is? It kind of like heavy choices that are being made, or just kind of like just day to day?
No, you know, just in a nice way, I would say that everybody looks at a coach's job as the most glamorous role in the office. Everybody wants to be that guy that gets the pat on the back. They want to have the relationship with the riders. They want to be the one that, you know, when their name's up in lights, that they turn around and go, if it wasn't for my coach, Jamie Bestwick, I wouldn't be here right now. You know, that they think that is like the ultimate payoff. No, that's ego. You know, you just want somebody to stroke your ego. Coaching is a thankless job, hands down. It's the most thankless thing I've ever been involved in. So, you know, there was...
I wrote a name. Is this the name? Yes. All right.
So, you know, it was almost like... what a dig. So, basically... we all had to stay in our lanes, and that's sometimes hard for people to do because, you know, we all didn't know what we were doing. Yeah, we were a part of this governing body that had many, many, many experiences of going to the Olympics, but as a BMX freestyle program, we were all learning. We're all so green. And so everybody kept veering over into each other's lanes, and it wasn't working, and we're all over the place. And the minute we streamlined, shit started happening.
Yeah.
Shit started happening, and I got the guys to come out and live with me and the family at the beginning of 2021, and they pretty much stayed there all year. And if they wasn't with me, we were traveling together, and if we weren't traveling together, we were in England for 2 months, and we were doing that. And
who's the team at this point? Obviously Declan and Charlotte and Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace, James Jones, Alex would come out, and that was everybody. Another woman? No, it was just Charlotte. All our eggs were in Charlotte's basket. Okay. So so there was that was the team. The house was a little rammed at times, but hey ho, it was it was for the goal. And I just built this environment in those 8 months that was conducive to getting us to exactly where we needed to go. Mm-hmm. And I was to be fair, the 8 months prior to achieving what we did in Tokyo was basically convincing the riders on an idea of winning and how we get there. And this is what we have to do, and this is what we're going to need. And of course, there were things that happened along the road that we didn't foresee happening, but we always had to find a plan to work around them. And riders crash. Declan hit his head in France, got knocked out. Mm-hmm. Bad one. Charlotte dislocated her shoulder 3 weeks before the Olympics.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, probably not too many people know about that. Maybe Charlotte's put it out there a few times, but maybe people weren't just reading.
Well, I noticed she was hurt during the Nora Cup video. Like when she got the cup, her arm was in a sling.
Popped her shoulder again.
Same one?
Yeah.
Then, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she popped her shoulder in North Carolina when we were out there at Daniels Park, and then she popped it again 3 weeks before the Olympics. And I literally had to build runs around, one, what they were comfortable doing, and two, their ailments, and the shoulder was that thing for Charlotte. So the 8 months leading into it were basically a lesson in convincing, brainwashing two individuals that they can get to the podium and that they can win and they can fulfill their dreams.
So making them believe they were winners.
Yes.
And that it was a reality and that the work will pay off, essentially.
Yes.
Interesting.
And believe in the plan.
Yeah.
There was always a plan.
Yeah.
And the plan, I kind of, I guess it was 3 years ago, when Hannah really took off and there was no signs of Hannah ever not winning. Mm-hmm. I just took some lessons that I'd learned over the years against Dave Mirra.
Would you say she was the Jamie Bestwick of women's park riding?
If you want to go that, I mean, if you want to say that, that's a tremendous honor because Hannah is hands down the most decorated female athlete of all time.
Yeah.
There's no disputing that.
Yeah.
Nobody even comes close.
Yeah.
But I did notice that, that some of the things that I'd done in my own career, just observing riders and things that Dave had taught me about the art of competition, I started looking at people a little differently, and I started to try and, to build a strategy of how do you beat a rider like that? Mm-hmm. She's the Dave Mirra of, she's Charlotte Worthington's Dave Mirra,
mm-hmm.
Well, not even. Like, Charlotte's not even in the picture at this point.
Yeah.
It's Paris. Paris has given Hannah a run for her money, and so is Lara, and so is Nikita. But how do you beat a powerhouse like that? And I figured out this plan about 3 years ago, and I was pretty adamant that's the only way you can do it. And the only way to do it is Charlotte can't get too big too soon. She can't. Otherwise, gig's up. All of a sudden you're a contender. When Hannah's winning by 6 points over second place, mm-hmm. Come on.
Yeah.
It's not even a contest at this point.
So you straight up planned on her being a sleeper?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the only way she could win.
Yeah.
It's the only way she could win because... she'd had some success. She'd had some first places, and she was European champion and British champion. But the European contest, she was only going up against a couple people, and it was people that she could get ahead of at the World Cups, but she couldn't even get close to Hannah. Mm-hmm. And that was a testament to how much work Hannah was doing and how she was just increasing the level of her own riding. But when it come to the Olympics, I knew that if Hannah rolled in there unbeaten, that was the in.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is the in. But in order to beat someone who is unbeaten, that you know is going to lay down an absolute heater of a run, you better have a few aces in your back pocket. So that's what I went about doing.
And
wow,
she put the front flip was out there because she did a front flip at another event, right?
She did it at the World Championships, and it got a 3rd place.
And then the 360 flip that had never been put out, and even that it was a realm of possibility for her.
No, we kept that one on the DL. But when you look at the front flip coming out, the rest of the run that she didn't light the world on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the number 1 in the world, winning by a country mile, and even if someone's got a front flip, you're still looking at them like, yeah, that's amazing. Like, you just front flip the box, maximum respect for that. I can do them at home, and I'll probably bring it to the Olympics, and that'll give me something to work on amongst other tricks that I'm doing. But you're not looking at that person as that girl's gonna scoop the prize away from me. And when we went to work in England, the whole time that was the only thing I could see was, focus on the run, concentrate on the run, build a run that nobody else would even think about putting together. And it wasn't something that was going to be trick heavy because she was injured. And there was only so much she could do. When you think about it, Charlotte's run had a flip over the spine, a front flip, a 360 flip, and a flare. See Hannah's run?
Yeah.
Hammer, 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 non-stop, bang, 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 all the way to the end. It was a 96.1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Highest score ever in a FIS World Cup, World Championships, and now it's the highest score for men and women in Olympic history. How the hell do you beat that? You don't. You can't. And that's what I relied on. I relied on everybody seeing that score come in, and all of a sudden you can hear the champagne corks flying off in everybody's head. The gold medals already around the neck, the parties back home, and the this and the that, and the adverts, and the watch. The watch sponsorships coming in, and hi, I'm such and such, and I am on the box of Wheaties, and it's like and don't get me wrong, I know this from experience.
Yeah,
I've been that person that's had visions of grandeur at the moment where I'm like, this score isn't going to get beaten tonight. And then if somebody comes in with a better plan than yours, even if they don't have the magnitude of tricks that you do, but the run is significantly smoother, more dynamic, more flowing, and it looks like BMX at its finest with some world first tricks in there. Can't count that run out.
Yeah, that impact, like it's not conscious, of course, like, but that impact of that trick being stomped out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it affects the score
from an individual who was never even seen as a contender.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like the planets aligned.
Yeah.
And Charlotte brought this run together, and it was everything everybody wanted to see from female BMX at that point. They wanted to know that this wasn't a one-horse race anymore.
Yeah.
There was another horse. And that's what we brought to the table. We brought Charlotte with a run, and I wouldn't let her look at the scores. I wouldn't let her watch anybody's runs. We'd gone over everything when we were in England. This is how you enter the course. This is how you exit the course.
You guys had a course, right?
Yeah, we had a course. Yeah,
okay.
they built one.
Yeah,
a little different, but pretty much the same.
90% there.
Yeah, but it was I was thinking back to in my own career, like the things where I went wrong and the things that judges didn't appreciate that led me to make the change to get a better score. Yeah. Whether it did or not, in my head, I was like, this is important because they don't appreciate this. Over exuberance after a run, throwing your bike and all that crap, this and it's great. Everybody should celebrate, absolutely. However, when you put the biggest rundown in history, sometimes, and you can take this one out the Dave Mirra playbook, riding out the course with a smile and one hand in the air like that is all you need. Less is more.
Yeah.
And it was effective.
You don't have to tell everybody you're the greatest if you're the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when she put that final flare down, I couldn't see it, and I'm always worried about every time she does a flare because, good God, that trick is their Achilles heel. But she pulled the flare, and I was waiting, and I saw her head come around the corner, and I was like, it's over.
Fuck yeah.
It's done.
That was a moment, man. That was like...
That was a moment.
I mean, it was a cool thing to see from my computer over there. You know, I could hardly imagine being there. It is a bummer that it wasn't the full Olympic experience, but what
is the full Olympic experience?
Yeah, I mean, the crowd,
the crowds,
and stuff
but
like that. But
in the height of competition, you can't even hear them anyway.
True.
You can't.
No. But I mean, either way, it was still, just from the distance of seeing, they're looking for people in the crowd, to cheer and stuff like that, just for television and all that.
Worst thing you can do as a competitor, look into the crowd. I told all my guys, don't look for allies in the crowd. Yeah. You won't find any. Yeah. Worst place you can look. Look inside yourself for the run, get it done. That's all you got to do. And, so maybe people can look at it as like they didn't get the full Olympic experience, but was that another feather in our hat to why it worked? Because it kept our guys calm. Maybe, yeah. Kept them focused. Yeah. They didn't have 10,000 screaming Japanese fans and people from around the world yelling for them. Maybe that was something that worked in their favor. And, I'm thankful for everything that happened that week because I kept a pretty tight ship. I felt like I did a good job. And every day I had a game plan going into practice. And after we finished every day, we'd always do the same thing, and we would just go debrief and we'd just go chill out. And I spent so much time with those guys. I felt like I never left their side. Yeah.
Would there be particular tricks that you would have them not do in practice? Or
every practice was structured. Every practice was structured. This day you do this. And I'm the reason why I'm sharing all this is, and you might be looking at me like, oh, you don't want to say this because what if Team USA is listening to this and they implement it next time? Doesn't matter, it's over. Yeah. This shit ain't gonna ever work again. We can't. No longer can we fly under the radar. Yeah. Now, those two individuals have a massive sign on them, and one says gold, one says bronze. Come get me. Yeah.
And just like you said before, even with yourself competing, you have to go back and do the work yourself. Like you and your team, and you have to dig deep and remind yourself of your why. Yeah. Why you do this, or if you do want to be better, you have to really train harder than you did before, even when you were at the top. So it's like the next time this come around, it's like hopefully that whatever plan you have, but also the work that you put in pays off. But you can only go off of that, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. And the interesting thing about all this is, when I actually felt like I became a coach this year, because there was a transformation. I reached a point where I said, look, I'm either doing this or I'm leaving. And if I'm doing it, I have to be 100% in, and I have to peak on the exact same day as I'm asking my riders to peak, which is August the 1st. Mm-hmm. And I just went to work, and I worked very hard, and I sacrificed just as much for them as I did in my own career. And we got the end result, but it won't work again. That plan won't work again. It never will. And you can try and replicate it, but the gig's up. Yeah. It absolutely is. However, moving into the next phase of their competitive lifestyles, I have so much more to teach these guys, because you've gone from San Francisco to winning your first gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything's changed. And now it's like that thing we're talking about with professional sponsorship. You've arrived.
Now the work is now
You've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to work on the real work. This is the party that you came to. Okay? This is the invite you always wanted to be in. This is where the biggest lessons are going to be taught. This is where you're going to hone in your craft as a competitive rider. And this is where I get to give you all my years of competitive knowledge, good and bad. I know every flipping scenario because I've been involved in them all against all the best riders in the world. I get to give you that now. And I get to give it to you at a time when you're in a position that, like you were before, you've never been in. But we gave you a set of tools to get to this position. Now you need a new set of tools to go run with it, for you to go start the next chapter in your career as a BMX rider, and to lay out your legacy within the sport.
Has winning, I feel like from the outside looking in, the impact of the gold medal and the bronze medal has had a tremendous effect on their life. I feel like they're doing these interviews and they got all these like things happening. These public, the clip of Declan walking down the street and just like shooting photos with people and stuff, and he was like a hero, you know. Where Logan won it, but I think also unfortunately the COVID effect in Australia, there's just a lot more strict, so he couldn't like revel in it, and I still think there's all these like restrictions, so he can't like necessarily do all these appearances. But from on the English side, it's been like to me it's looked crazy, and I wasn't there some I reread your Albion interview before this, and you had a quote in there that says England doesn't give a shit about action sports. So has that changed a little bit since, at least in the sense of what you've experienced?
Yeah, 100%.
Is that, I mean, directly impact of the Olympics, you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, the standout sport at this year's Olympics was BMX, racing and freestyle. Mm-hmm. The fact that
the racer was English too, right?
Yeah,
won gold on the female side. Yeah.
So they won gold in female, and they got silver.
That's so sad. I don't even know her name.
In Bethany Shriver.
Okay.
And Kai White. Kai White got silver. So we littered the podium for BMX freestyle and BMX racing. So, and it was so exciting to see, and the stories of the individuals were so, kind of close to home that people have embraced them. And I mean, they're celebrities in England. They absolutely are, and, like everybody that gets an Olympic medal, like next year, there'll be, their names will be cemented in history by the Queen. They'll probably get a knighthood, something like that. Yeah. It happens to all the Olympic medalists. Yeah. Like they get, I don't know, MBE, OBE, or if you become Dame, you get the knighthood, Dame or Sir. You know, it's insane what the UK does for Olympic athletes. And the morning after, I can remember, we were in the condos we were staying in at the Olympic Village, and we were talking, and I said, you do realize your lives are never going to be the same again. Your lives are going to change forever. And I think they kind of looked at me like, I'm sure,
chill.
We'll do something, but I don't even think that they anticipated the reception that was waiting for them in England. I mean, they're literally on TV every other week, and they're opening this and they're doing that, and they're interviewed here and they're interviewed there, and it's nice because what they've managed to do in one Olympics has eclipsed what the rest of us have tried to do in 30 years. Like the impact that I've made on the UK in my 30 years of riding, and 13 gold medals and 10 this, what the other, it's not even made an impression. but one Olympic Games can change a country.
That's crazy.
And that's what's awesome about it. And I'm very proud that I've been a part of that. And, and also it ties back into, again, I'm very proud because I stood on the shoulders of my BMX community, both in England and around the world, to give those guys the knowledge that has been handed down to me over the years from many, many people that have helped me out, that have ridden with me, that have progressed English BMX or world BMX in some way, shape or form, to better serve those two individuals to fulfill their goals.
To put them on your shoulders.
And to put them on my shoulders, yeah. So that's an awesome thing.
Hell yeah, Jamie. I feel like I could ask more questions, but I don't know if you
just go.
Well,
what's the time limit on these podcasts?
There is no time limit. I am getting a little bit of. I was supposed to be somewhere at 12:30, which is a half hour ago. So whatever. But
put it this way: there's a lot of stuff on this podcast that I've never said to anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
so you may as well squeeze it all out of me now, because I'm probably never going to do a podcast ever again.
You essentially, sorry, Mustache Man, whatever other podcast you did.
I know it was good. It was more talk about gravel stuff. That's cool.
I don't even know what that is. Well, I guess relating to the Olympics. So the direct impact that it had was that British cycling is bringing in an influx of dollars, correct, into the BMX program. I thought I saw something announced like that.
Oh yeah. I think they had an outside sponsor donate $1 million to BMX Freestyle and the promotion of it and development programs of it in the coming years. Yeah, I think I did get that press release too. Yeah. No.
I would think you have some sort of insider knowledge, though.
No,
I got that press release too.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't have too much insider knowledge to these things.
I guess I'm trying to pull what sort of impact the Olympics has had directly, like kind of to the naysayers now that it's done, because before the Olympics, I've even said, like, I believe the Olympics needs BMX more than BMX needs the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Still essentially believe that, but to the people who have opposed or had negative things to say about BMX being in the Olympics, what positives, now that it's done, what positives have there been? And maybe you're not the right person to ask that question to. I don't know.
I'm probably not.
Yeah.
I would say that, the performances of the people that medaled from England have brought a lot of hope and inspiration to the BMX community.
Mm-hmm.
The BMX community is very proud of them. They seem to have dispelled all the naysayers, although you're always going to find you one or two hanging on for dear life. But, it's really changed people's perspective of BMX. They no longer see it as many did before the years of the X Games, as delinquents riding bikes. Mm-hmm. Now they see it as something to be inspired by, to build a career. That it's a path for people that don't want to do team sports and that have a creative mind and that can channel it in the most creative and amazing ways on now the world's biggest platform, which is the Olympics. So it's done a number of things, and it's also opened up so many doors for many other people, and it's also given a lot of riders that are looking to be the next breed of Olympic riders, that hope that with hard work and with a lot of self-belief that they can stand on the podium at the Olympics, because a team of ragtag individuals that weren't looked as contenders did the Cinderella fairy tale story.
Definitely. Do you next Olympics is in 3 years? Like 2 years?
It seemed like 2.5 years.
Because they're still keeping the same timeline. So
yeah, 2024.
2024.
Okay.
So not 4 years, but 3 years
3 years,
apart.
yeah.
Freestyle's still in.
Yeah.
Obviously, is there? I mean, how good does BMX have to do for it to be street or dirt or vert or flat? You know, like what?
I think Flatland's in.
In 20? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
More news. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm pretty sure it's either in or it's an exhibition event.
Okay.
It's just a matter of time, isn't it?
I would think so.
You know, once the UCI can really figure out how to stage all the events together, it's what the people want. It's what the kids want.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong. I love watching track and field. I love watching gymnastics. I love watching diving and swimming. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But
I like the one where they go down. They have the skiing and they shoot stuff.
Oh yeah, telemarketing is it? I don't know. Anyway, but is that what today's generation want to see, or is that what the exiting generation have always accustomed the Olympics with?
Yeah.
You know, and I can't say that. You know, people get. You know, a lot of satisfaction out of certain things that are hanging on at the Olympics these days. They don't do it for me, and I'm somebody who got excited about that years ago. Now I want to see more youthful things.
Yeah.
I want to see more street-cultured sports get the credit that they deserve. And BMX Freestyle has literally made a massive statement to not only UCI, the Olympic Committee, but to the world that, hey, this is the way forward.
And too, on top of all that, is like I had this conversation with this had to be like over a year ago with a gentleman at GT about BMX and skateboarding, and he wasn't going against what I was saying, but he made the point about like BMX not being a lifestyle, but skateboarding is. And I was like, well, if anything's a lifestyle, it would be bike riding, because every single person knows how to ride a bike. If they don't, they probably can in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So with hearing that, it's like, well, bike riding in general is so relatable, and to see it represented on such a high level, it do kind of spark something. Every other person is like, oh, I completely know what this is. I may not know what the trick is, but I get it. Like, I can relate to this. Not everybody's fast. You know, not everybody can throw a javelin. Not everybody can do a high jump. Not everybody can jump like how many ever feet. Yeah. But one thing you can relate to is riding a bike. So it brings a sense of nostalgia to the person watching it. So with that, it seems like it has like a thing that can stand the test of time. And where if it's in the Olympics, then it's automatic in your head. You want to watch it because you want to see what's being done on a bike.
Yeah.
No. I think it'd be interesting. Where's the next Olympics?
Paris.
Don't know anything.
No.
I'm very knowledgeable about Jason Culver jumping around that stair set in Oceanside.
It's in
16 years ago, but I don't know
Paris.
what the Olympics are in 3 years.
Yeah, it's in Paris. And you know what? The French will do such an amazing job of the Olympics in Paris. And
it'd be cool to go.
Yeah.
It would be cool to go.
And I will say to the freestyle competitive world, watch out for Anthony John.
Yeah, he's a weapon.
That kid is special.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm already like 45 minutes late.
I do have another question.
Oh, you do?
Okay, help sum this up.
Okay.
Yeah.
To anybody that will watch this or, you know, catch it whenever they catch it, do you have anything that words of inspiration, things that people can incorporate on the day-to-day, like whatever it is that you can think of that you would want to share with people?
Yeah. You know, I mean, there's always the things that, you know, I always remind myself of in anything that I take to is, you know, just have fun and enjoy it and do what you love, you know, and BMX is one of those things that I've given my love to over the years and I've enjoyed, and it's led me to other genres of bike riding, you know, road biking, mountain biking, gravel riding, and those communities are no different to BMX. They're very warming. They embrace you, and it's all about love and a good time and sharing the common bond of riding a two-wheel bicycle. But I think the biggest question in life, is, for anybody is, what do we need? Actually, I'll rephrase that. What do you want? I think everybody in life kind of meanders through not really knowing what they want. So what is it that you want? And when you can figure out what you want, then you'll start to ask yourself, well, what do I need? If I want this, then what do I need to do to get it? Mm-hmm. And then, that sets you off on your journey. And if it's, I want to ride a BMX bike like that girl, and I want to do that trick, well, what do I need? Well, first off, I need a bike. And then I need to learn how to ride it. And then I need to learn how to ride skate parks. And then I need to build a community of friends that will embrace me and push me and inspire me, like and nurture me to go on and fulfill my want.
Yeah.
And I think that's questions we ask every day, but sometimes we never find the right path to fulfilling it. My wants are different to yours, they're different to Ryan's. But when you ask yourself, God, I really want to do that. Well, what do you need to do it? So go out and find that path. Find what it's going to take to get you to fulfill your goal, and enjoy the process. Have fun.
Damn, that's pretty sick.
It's so funny because you say that all the time on the how-to videos. Enjoy the process.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's like,
it is. Everything's a journey.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if we'd have done this interview 10 years ago, I don't think I'd be as, like, I don't know whether it's philosophical or like
introspective or
life coachy, all this crap.
Dude, you're an inspirational guy. Like I'm saying, I feel like like next time I'm like demotivated, I'm gonna hit you up. In reality, like
I feel like I'm in a different place.
Yeah.
And I know that I've got some hard questions to ask myself in the road of life. And I've got to find my own way of fulfilling those goals and living with decisions that will come up, and making plans and making sure that I'm still enjoying my life, but I'm in a very different place. And I think maybe this is just was the person that I always wanted to be, that I would never allow myself to be, because I was so invested in a competitive side of BMX where you don't want to give anybody the impression that you really don't have it under control.
Yeah.
You're constantly trying to be
the
guy.
That there's a little scratch on the armor.
Yeah. And I appreciate it, and the things I've done in bike riding have definitely humbled me. The relationships I've kept and the relationships I've lost have molded me, and I'm always learning. There's always something to learn, and I'm always looking at others for inspiration, but I'm also never forgetting that I have to keep moving forward, and I have to keep trying my best and to be a better version of myself every day, because I'm still stood on the community, the giants that came before me, and I have a duty to keep being an awesome person for them, and to keep all the work that they did alive, and knowing that it's going to be passed on to more and more people in the future, that'll lead them to their own success, and hopefully they'll reflect back and see where where their own success came from.
Yeah. Wow. And it continues on and on and on.
And it continues on and on and on and on and on. And that's the beauty of life. Yeah. Give back.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Was it educational?
Very educational.
Yeah. So,
yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate it.
And do you want to thank any of the brands that still support you? I mean, I think it's important to lay those out there because
it is.
Yeah, because
I want to thank the brands that I'm with today. Monster Energy, Toyota, Alpine Stars, Standard, Profile, whoever. I can't.
Oh shit.
Woodward Cam. How can I forget Woodward Cam? I work for them. I ride there every day. I just forgot about Woodward Cam. But again, I'm only with this group of incredible brands because of the opportunities I got initially.
Yeah.
The early brands. So again, it's standing on the shoulders of giants. Like those brands were the best at that time. And they just kept pushing me and steering me towards doing bigger and better things, and it's led to more and more opportunities. And I'm so grateful for anybody, any team manager, any person that ever gave me a bike part, pumped my tires up, gave me a tube, gave me a piece of advice, gave me a ride, gave me a sandwich, gave me some money for gas,
a seat in a Baja truck,
seat in a Baja truck, every opportunity. That anybody's ever given me, I'm so thankful. And anybody who actually believed in me enough to want me to ride for their brand, I mean, you're a part of my success too. This is not an I. This was always a we. And I will never forget that for the rest of my life. And even to the agents who I've worked with over the years and I'm still really, really good friends with, and so many team managers that took a chance on me, I have to thank you. And for every time I was stood on that podium, regardless of who I was with at the time, that victory was as much yours as it was mine, because we're a combined effort. And like I told my athletes, you'll never be alone when you're on the course. It's always strength in numbers. Mm-hmm. The people are around you, that's your team. And you'll never be alone. And know that. Because, competitive world can be a lonely place. And like you said earlier, it's lonely at the top in whatever you do. Who sang that? You always got to watch
the people around you.
People around you.
It's from Mirra.
Yeah, it's from...
Who was it? I'm blanking.
Not Gangstar.
It is Gangstar.
It is Gangstar, yeah. It's Gangstar. And you know what? It can be lonely at the top. But that's just a perception. If you've got great people around you, if you've got the right people in your corner, if they're all in the direction of your goal, what you want, and they are backing what you need, and they're there to help you, then you got strength in numbers, my friend. You got a lot of people behind you, and you should never forget that. And I've never forgot that. And to this day, I am eternally grateful for any help anybody's ever given me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you.
You're the man.
Yo, man. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Go watch some BMX.
Yeah.
Go ride BMX instead. But go to @BMX first and watch all the BMX.
Oh, yeah. Plug.
Yeah. By the way, there's been some absolute hammers on the gram lately.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been trying. Well, I took like a 2-week break from posting on Instagram, so it was all
busy
other people.
guy.
I came back in the last couple of days. Not that it was all me, but like saying in the last few days, I'm like, I should fucking post again.
My favorite one was, I can't remember which rider it is, but he's the guy who does the nose press up the steps.
Oh, that cast bar dude.
Yeah. That one.
Yeah.
I swear, honestly, he could have a show in Vegas like David Copperfield.
Yeah. It's like, how is that even possible? But it's like,
yeah,
anything is possible, but until you see somebody do it, it's like, wow.
I tell you who's doing real good at the minute. Bryce Tryon. That kid's making
amazing.
Some moves.
Amazing.
That is, he's making some moves. Yeah. I like that kid a lot. I always felt like his style of riding, he hadn't quite refined it yet, but now he's starting to click. Mm-hmm. He's starting to figure it out, and I wish good things for that kid in the future. And Malott too. Those guys out in Arizona now, they Lake Havasu, now they have their own ramps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
I went to.
You went?
Yeah, I went there for 2 days. Yeah, and he's. I mean, I guess it's on the same vein, but I'd never seen. He has the Apple Watch, and he knows his sustained heartbeat. So he's always glancing at his Apple Watch, and after filming him for a couple hours, I'm like, are you looking at your heart rate? And he's like, yeah, I forget the exact number, but like at 140, I can go all day or something like that. I don't know what the exact heartbeat was. He's like, if I get up to like 170, I need to chill and get it back down there.
Yeah.
But I can sustain 140 all day. I can ride all day. And I'm like, wow. I'm fucking dying over there holding the camera, holding the gimbal, like skating or whatever. And I'm like, it's a whole other. It's an athlete, and I was supposed to be there for 2 days, and he did everything he wanted in 2, so I came home.
Wow.
So it was like that didn't happen,
Yeah.
And so he's supposed to come out for another 2 days, and next week or something, literally next Thursday. So wrap the video up.
And that's what today's competitive world is steering everybody towards. Yeah. It's all data now. It's all data driven, and when you do see the numbers like that and what you can sustain for longer period of times, they're goals. You've like, what do I need to do in order to maintain a 1 minute run at a high level intensity of riding, keep my heart rate at 140.
Wow,
nuts.
JD.
So that's shit that I don't understand.
Yeah.